Welcome to NBA Deeper Dive right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd, joined by Terry McBride to break down tonight's 6-game NBA slate. We are sponsored by No House Advantage. And of course, we'll go through each of these games, talk about the injuries, talk about some breaking news, talk about what's going on in Chicago. We got a starting lineup change that is apparently happening there. And of course, has opened up some value across this slate. Terry, man, good Sunday afternoon. Great to be doing a show with you once again. What's kind of your overall take on tonight's slate?
Value, I think is the name of the game tonight. We've got a few teams in that situation with just, guys out for COVID list requirements and, Chicago shaking up their rotation, working a guy like Thomas Satoransky into the starting lineup at the extreme value rate. So we've got pieces to move around the board today. We've got a lot of different things that we can cover. So it's an interesting looking slate. I haven't run a ton of crunches for it yet. Basically started my day, slept in a little bit with the clock change, didn't realize that was going on, and then kind of woke up and wrote the deep dive, and now I'm here. So haven't had a lot of time to put lineups together and crunch it to see how the slate actually comes together. But I've done a lot of looking into, the various individuals, the plays, and how everything looks. So it's a really interesting looking slate, and we've got a few major inflection points. So I'm psyched to get into it.
Yeah, I did a crunch right before the show. A lot of Kevin Porter Jr., a lot of Thomas Satoransky, a lot of Thaddeus Young. They were the three guys that were coming up the most, which really should not be a surprise in terms of the value there. Of course, we'll talk about the Bulls here in a little bit. Of course, we're sponsored by No House Advantage. You got to head over there to play their player prop contest and download the No House Advantage app today. Use the promo code Awesemo to receive a match deposit up to $20. This is eligible for all users today. Beat your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. Appreciate their sponsorship here of the show. Let's get right into the first game of the night. That'll be the Heat and the Magic. Of course, so we look at the Heat side of the equation here. No Bam Adebayo. He's out over Orlando. Evan Fournier, James Ennis, Aaron Gordon are also out. Terrence Ross is questionable in terms of this one. I guess let's start off on the Miami side of the equation here. I mean, obviously, you're going to look at Jimmy Butler, because he's going to get the usage here with Bam not in the lineup. But what's your kind of breakdown of this Miami Heat lineup tonight?
Yeah, so in general, were it not for a few situational changes and some value in this game, just going by the total that Vegas has on this game, this is a dog of a game on this slate. I think the last I saw it was a 208 total, and most of the other games are well into the 220s, and we've got 3 or 4 that are in the 230s. So just going by that, this is a game I would love to be able to just kind of skip and cross off my list, but we've got too many decent looking plays in it that are just created by the price and the, somebody's got to score for Orlando kind of idea. So I'm getting to some Michael Carter Williams. I think he's definitely relevant, particularly on Fanduel, where he's somehow 1,000 less than the price that Draftkings has him at. You get him with positional flex on DK, but I think 5,900 is just too much to pay in anything other than a mix and match kind of a capacity for Carter Williams. He's a guy who's been, contributing some value with all these absences. And I think he definitely gets an uptick if Terrence Ross doesn't play. Then he becomes more relevant despite the price on DK. He's just going to be doing a little bit more. But overall, he's a 0.84 fantasy point per minute guy. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 13 real life points in 27.9 minutes. Picks up 4.8 rebounds and 6 assists and 1 stock per game. The rates are okay for him. He's a guy who can score in some other ways, but we need him to score the ball a little bit and then pick up some assists as the primary facilitator. So he'll have an opportunity to do that. I'm getting to him a decent amount on FanDuel, getting a fair amount of Vooch. He wouldn't be the prime play for me on either site, but I think he's one of the better center options. We've seen him shine all year long when Aaron Gordon's not in there. That's going to be the case again today. And we've got several other members of the front court out. So just in taking a look at what Vooch had done in the stretch without Gordon, and I also threw James Ennis into the mix because he's not going to be there either when I wrote the deep dive. Vooch jumps from a 139 fantasy point per minute rate to a 146, and he's got a 22% assist rate, which actually surprised me a little bit. I didn't think he was quite that level of distributing the ball from the center spot. So I do like him. I think he can produce for us. He's got room to produce a ceiling game. There are just a few center options that look pretty good relative to one another. So it's kind of a flat position where we can get to a few shares of each of the better players at the center spot today.
My thing with Vooch is more of why I like him is who else is going to get the usage on the Magic? I mean, maybe you can go to like a Dwayne Bacon, we'll see if Terrence Ross plays because, when Terrence gets hot, he can put up 20 points really quickly. It's just, to me, when I look at the Magic, it's more about Vooch is going to be the guy where the offense is just going to go through him by default.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's that kind of a guy. I mentioned the assist rate. And like I said, it surprised me a little bit that the actual conversion on his assist was as high as it is. But he is a willing and able passer from the middle. He's a good pivot for their offense. So they just do a lot that runs through him. And then he takes a good amount of shots, which drives up the the actual usage rate. So between being able to contribute on other people's buckets and get his own, I think he's very much in play. And he's a solid producer. If Ross goes, I think he's definitely on the board. I had him as potentially not going. It looks like Alex has him in. So he definitely vaults into relevance as well. 5,700 on FanDuel at the small forward. That's a bargain price for a guy who, like you said, heat check game. That guy can get in there and light up the scoreboard really fast. And he's under owned on the FanDuel slate right now. I suspect that might catch up once we get firm news on him one way or the other. So we'll see how that shakes out going into lock. Definitely pay attention to what they give you on live before lock for him. But if he's on the board, he's definitely in play too. Definitely don't love getting to guys like Dwayne Bacon. But if Ross doesn't go, Bacon becomes more relevant. So that's where I would get to him.
Now, if you ever do miss any of our shows here on the Awesemo YouTube channel, they are a part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. And when you leave a 5-star rating and review with your Twitter handle or your email address, you'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible to win up for 1 year. Looking at Jimmy Butler, we mentioned him right here at the start. Over on FanDuel, he's crossed that 10,000 threshold, now 10,300. 9,400 over on DK.
Yeah, he's in play. He comes in as more of a mix and match option. He doesn't really jump out. One of the tools I really use a lot is Alex's Boom Bust tool. I think it's just a fantastic dashboard to get a feel for the entire slate, as well as something that I talk about a lot is just looking position by position and then how the overall positions compare to one another. And Jimmy was, kind of flat just in terms of how he compares to some of the other guys. By Alex's optimal lineup appearance rate and by the boom score probability. He is still a killer producer. It's just he's pretty appropriately priced. 9.4 on DK, maybe a couple $100 low, but not an extreme situation where he's really jumping out for the price. 10.3 on FanDuel, I think is probably bullseyeing where he should be. So he's just not popping because of that, and because the public is on him. The public isn't shying away from those marks and from the price. So he's a little bit overexposed for what we've got for him in terms of an optimal lineup appearance rate. That said, with a star caliber player, if we've got the money to spend, if you've filled out the rest of your lineup and you've got the 10.3 on FanDuel, the 9.4 on DK, you're not making a mistake by plugging Jimmy Butler in there by any means. He's got great production, 141 fantasy point production on per minute on the season. When Bam is off the floor, some assist share opens up because they're both excellent at distributing the ball. So with across all situations without Bam, so only taking Bam out of the rotation, Jimmy jumps to a 158 from a 141 fantasy point per minute rate. So that's a big uptick just by taking Bam out of the equation. His assist share jumps from 42.5 to 45.2. So he gets, picks up a little bit in the assist category, just can produce all over the board. So I definitely like getting to Jimmy. I just don't know that he's going to be mandatory with the way that things come together DFS wise.
When you look at the ownership projections that we have right now, the second most popular player on the Heat is Kelly Olynyk, 6,100 over on DK. I mean, do you want to get to some Kelly Olynyk here today?
Yeah, I think if I'm playing on Draftkings, I want him more than where we only have one center to work with on FanDuel. He's just a guy that, for me, it's a lot to ask to roster Olynyk over some of the much, much better center options. Guys like Karl Anthony Towns, guys like Enes Kanter, guys like Vooch, who just rate out, better or at least equally. And we're getting to star caliber players. What we sacrifice in doing that is Olynyk is only a $4,500 center on FanDuel. So you get significant savings out of him. And he's not going to kill you in terms of the frequency with which we find him optimal or his ability to get to a ceiling score at that price. What's a little bit daunting is, again, only the ability to play one center. So there's strong opportunity cost, and the public is going to him on FanDuel. So he's over-owned on FanDuel. So I don't really love getting to him there. But where we can flex him between power forward and center, we're spending a little bit more, but that's kind of keeping the public off of him on DraftKings a little bit more. So I think he's got a little bit more utility for us, even though we're paying a little bit more for him on DK. He's around the same amount of optimal lineup rate in this latest update. So it's interesting, the way that he breaks down across slates and what his utility looks like. But putting him in the power forward spot on DK and then rostering a better center alongside him, or even going to two centers alongside him, I think is interesting from a unique way to put your lineup together perspective.
Yeah, it's just one of those games that I don't want to have a ton of exposure for. I mean, you mentioned right when we started talking about it, the total of 208 is by far the lowest on tonight's slate. I mean, it's no one's even close to that number. So, I mean, I think that's something to consider. And you look at the Magic. I mean, obviously, there's just the guard issue that is there, and I'm sure there's going to be some players they're going to want to start to kind of put a spotlight on. And look, I'm a Magic fan. I don't think they're going to deal Vooch at some point, but I think, they want to probably get Aaron Gordon in there, not playing tonight, to potentially showcase him as he do go forward. Let's move on to the next game. That'll be Cleveland and Atlanta. Looking at the injury report in terms of this one, Taurean Prince out, Trae Young probable, Clint Capella is also questionable in terms of this one. Let's start off on the Cleveland side here.
On the Cleveland side, so we've got, I think the most relevant player probably on either site for Cleveland is Colin Sexton, and I think it's mostly on FanDuel, where you're getting him as a $7,800 shooting guard. There's some utility there. He's not the best play in the world. He's going to be owned right around the same amount that he comes up optimal. He's a 0.96 fantasy point per minute producer for the year. And then let me just pull him up in my write-up here. So we've got Darius Garland as a question mark. So if he's not on the court, we could see a little bit of an uptick for Sexton. He jumps from 27% usage to 29.9 with Garland off the floor, but his fantasy point per minute doesn't really change. It goes up by from 0.96 to 0.97. So we're not gaining a ton of ground for doing that, but I think Sexton is just one of the better, just the way things come together, options at the shooting guard spot on FanDuel. You can get to him. He's more of a mix and match kind of a piece than he is a lock and load kind of play. At the same price on DK against a lower relative salary cap, he becomes less interesting. Comes up less frequently optimal, doesn't have a great boom score. What I do like is the ability to move him between the point guard and the shooting guard spot, so you get to flex him around your lineup a little bit. But again, he's a mix and match kind of a guy on that board for me. The only other guy I really care about, and that goes up, by the way, like I said, if Garland comes off the floor. We do have Garland projected in right now, but given the question mark on him and just given the lack of real upside at the prices that he's at, Garland's not really a consideration, except for I'll take a few shares of him if I get him, if he's playing in the game. The primary other player on the Cleveland side of things that I would have any real interest in would be Jared Allen. I think he slots in okay on both sites. He's pricey. He's a spend up option for sure. 8,000 singular center on FanDuel. He would be like my 4th or 5th ranked FanDuel center. And I would take a small amount of shares of him. And then at 8,200, bigger price tag on DK, I think he's still relevant just because he's got a decent raw point projection and you can roster him. You don't have the opportunity cost so much, but you're paying up to get to him. He doesn't have an incredible optimal lineup rate, but he's a guy who's not going to be owned very much, under a 5% ownership projection for him. So doubling up on him, you're not going to be risking too many of your lineups, and you get a little bit of edge from a guy that we know can produce a ceiling game from time to time. So range of outcomes wise, I don't mind spending a little bit of money for Allen in some of my lineups, but not a primary play for me by any means.
Yeah, just looking at ownership projections, Allen will be number 3 on the Cavs in terms of what we're seeing in terms of that team's ownership. Of course, if you do want to get access to the ownership. All you got to do is sign up for an Awesemo Plus. Got a great deal going on right now for Awesemo Plus. Get your first week 50% off a Awesemo weekly pass. We use the promo code Shamrock at checkout. This is for first-time users of Awesemo Plus. That's $15 for Awesemo Plus access to all the DFS sports we have, including all the college basketball content we have up there. You got to check it out as we get ready for March Madness next week. This promo, the Shamrock promo, is good through March the 17th. You see it right there on the site. Just enter awesemo.com to sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. 50% off. This is for first-time users only and is valid through March the 17th, which is 3 days away. Come up on Wednesday, St. Patty's Day. Are you a big St. Patty's Day guy?
What's my last name? You don't get the last name. They don't issue the last name McBride to you if you're not a St. Patty's Day guy. I tend to not be like a big fan of forced fun kind of nights. Like I'm not a huge New Year's guy or anything, but St. Patty's Day has always been on the list. I'm actually a little early. I've got my Blarney Stone t-shirt on today. So a little bit early on the St. Patty's just for lack of laundry options, honestly. But yeah, St. Patty's is always fun. As
someone who's in the bar business, I sometimes these can be amateur nights.
Oh yeah. For sure.
It's very much amateur nights of I remember back when I was working in radio just doing bar gigs on St. Patrick's night. Yeah, man, they're you know.
See, that's why I like to go to like the actual like just dive bar, watering holes, and do it on actual St. Patty's Day when everybody's had the pre-St. Patty's Day weekend parties and everything. So you're just in like a dark, dank kind of a bar. That's my kind of St. Patty's bar.
Apparently young Jordan was doing that yesterday.
That's right. Yeah, we heard all about that. Stumbled his way into some shop and accosted somebody into giving him an Indians hat, from what I hear.
Exactly. Let's get back to the game. The Atlanta side of the equation in terms of this one. Looking at what we're seeing ownership wise. It's obviously Trae Young, John Collins. John Collins' name is being talked about in trade rumors as well. So, potentially Atlanta trying to showcase here, but obviously with the Hawks, always starts with Trae Young.
Yeah, for sure. He's the star player on their team. He's definitely a guy leaps up on the boards in terms of some of the metrics that we look at on the boom bust tool. He's pricey, but I think he's appropriately pricey. Like that's not a heavy price to pay to get to Trae Young and the potential production. He's down a little bit overall on the year from where we've seen him last year, but he seems to be on the uptick a little bit. Over their most recent 10 games, he's up to a 33.4% usage rate, a 54% assist share, putting up 27.4 real life points per minute, 34.9 minutes per game. And it seems like the price is not totally caught up to him, and I think the ownership is maybe not totally caught up to him. I'm not saying he's sneaky. I mean, he's going to be 23%ish owned on FanDuel, a little less than that on DK, but I don't know that necessarily for this spot against a weak Cleveland team that the public is getting to him maybe quite enough for this situation. So I think we can go a little bit over the top on where the public is on Trae and be in a pretty good spot here. Definitely one of my more interesting spots on the board in terms of the point guard spot on both sites. So I don't hate that. It looks like we just got news Terrence Ross will play off the bench tonight. Is interesting. So,
correct. Yeah, he's got the term was will try to play tonight, and Steve Clifford said he'll come off the bench. So obviously maybe a little buyer beware of that situation. But someone in the chat asked about Trae Young. He is probable, which likely means he's most likely going to play.
Yeah, I think he goes. We've seen him be probable a couple times and end up playing. So I don't think that's something to really concern ourselves with. And I think we've got a few obvious emergency pivots at that price or near that price at the point guard spot that we can go to. You can jump to a Dame Lillard without too much fanfare, too much reconstruction, and several similarly priced point guard options on both sides. So I don't think we really need to sweat the Trae doesn't play narrative, but I think he does go anyway. Collins is very interesting as well. 5,900 on FanDuel is a pretty fantastic price at the power forward spot. And if we don't get Capella in this game, I think he takes another step forward and becomes extremely relevant. He's had an up and down kind of a year. He's down to 1.04 fantasy points per minute. He was a 1.24 producer last year. I think some of that has to do with just playing alongside Capella in that lineup, getting some of his rebound share taken away. So if Capella doesn't go, we see a little bit of an uptick for him. And I think we can, rely on him to produce a decent fantasy score. And for the money on FanDuel, I think he can, blow through a ceiling score for us. Honestly, that's a pretty solid price. On DK, you get him at the center spot, but he just doesn't get there for 6,400 in terms of Alex's numbers. So I would use him as a mix and match, but he looks a little bit too popular, a little bit too underwhelming in terms of how frequently we get him in the optimal lineup and what his upside is. I think that does come up, though, again, if Capella doesn't play. So monitor that. If we get that news, then we could potentially go back and look at John Collins again on DraftKings and get a little more out of him.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up about Clint Capella. If he did not play, who are you going to pivot to in terms of the Hawks?
Yeah, I think that would be probably where most of it goes. There's just a lot of wings on this team that, it might benefit some of your just from having shots available and having touches available. It might benefit guys like Bogdan and guys like Danilo and guys like a Tony Snell, who would probably see a few extra minutes. But as far as getting a specific center, do I really want to go to Okongwu? I don't think so. I don't think that he would jump that much in relevance. I think they would just kind of shake the minutes around. If we see him get all of a sudden a 26-minute projection or something like that, yeah, for 3,500 on FanDuel, flat minimum 3,000 on DK, I think he picks up some significant relevance really, really quickly. So we'll have to see what the minutes look like, but I would expect he would land somewhere more in the 16-minute projection range, and just even at those prices, probably not be a gigantic favorite to get you there. I don't think he becomes the absolute must value on the slate if we we see with a guy like a Tony Bradley or somebody. He might. He's a 0.91 fantasy point per minute producer. So it really all comes down to how much we would expect him to play in that situation.
Appreciate everyone here on a Sunday afternoon. This is NBA Deeper Dive. Coming up after us will be NBA Live Before Lock. Of course, if you're not subscribed to us here on YouTube, be sure to do that. Hit that notification bell as well so you know when a new show is live here on the channel. Of course, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. That really does help us out along. Let's move on to the next one. That'll be the Celtics and the Rockets. The Celtics, an 11-point favorite. Your over-under number total on this one is 221 and a half. You look at Houston, we know John Wall is out. As I look at my Excel spreadsheet that I printed up of where I've got injury designations, I just have a lot of O's next to Houston players who are not going to play here today. Let's kind of start with Houston. Kevin Porter, he is by far the guy that came up the most for me when I was doing some crunches. I guess let's start Kevin Porter Jr. Give me some pros and cons of why to and maybe why not to play him.
So he's all over the board. I was trying to figure out just even where to put him in terms of when I was writing up the position-based article, because he's a small forward for 6,000 on FanDuel, and then he's a $5,000 point guard shooting guard on DraftKings. So that's really hard when you're writing position by position to figure out where exactly to list the guy. I think he's relevant on both slates. I think he's much more relevant for 5,000 on DK. He is coming up, just looking at Alex's board, 52.3% of our simulations for DK, he lands in the optimal lineup. That is ridiculous. He's going to be owned right around that same amount, around 50% of public lineups, but he's got a massive boom score probability. You can flex him around to different spots in your lineup. He just accesses so much of what we want to get to at other positions that he is very, very relevant on the slate. He is, let's see, just reading through what I wrote up about him. So those numbers have actually even come up since I wrote the article just a couple hours ago. In his 2 games with the Rockets, he's already grabbed a 27.5% usage share, and his assist rate is insane at 66.7%. It's a 2-game sample, but he has had a just gargantuan amount of assists in those couple of games. 33.5 minutes per game across the 2. If he's getting anything like that and producing anywhere near that for the price, he's going to be part of the optimal lineup tonight on DraftKings. So I think he's not unavoidable given the ownership, but I think we want to be at the field mark and probably end up exceeding the field mark despite it being in, basically half of public lineups. I want a lot of Kevin Porter on DraftKings. Less so on FanDuel. I think he's definitely very relevant still. Small forward is a spot where we can spend that 6,000 pretty wisely in getting to him, but I think he's a bigger question mark, and he's still getting a pretty strong ownership share on FanDuel. So I can look to get away from him with some of the other builds and some of the other construction paths available over there. but I think he is going to land in a pretty good amount of my lineups on FanDuel. I might undercut the public a little bit, come in like 25-ish% instead of their 28 or instead of going above. But again, I haven't crunched actually, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. He's one of the guys I have kind of circled in my brain to let's see where Kevin Porter actually lands tonight.
Yeah, I know Sterling Brown was coming for me a little bit, but when I think of this Rockets team, and we talk from a DFS angle, but then you kind of talk about the basketball side of this is Victor Oladipo. It's no question that the Rockets, once Oladipo turned down that extension, you turn down an extension, it's kind of like Lauri Markkanen in Chicago. We need to start showcasing it. We need to try to get some trade offers out there. What's kind of your take on Oladipo? Because obviously the usage is going to be there.
Yeah, he'll be, as long as he's on the floor, I have no problem getting to Oladipo. The numbers kind of bear it out. He's not the player he once was, but he's still a 1.12 fantasy point producer so far this year. For 7,700 at the shooting guard on FanDuel, I think we can get to that. For 8,400 at the point guard or shooting guard on DK, a lot tougher of an ask. I think he's still playable, but he's much more of a mix and match kind of an option on Draftkings than he is on FanDuel. So just in terms of pure salary play, that's kind of how I would break him down. I do like the flexibility that he gets for us, and I think he will be, to your point, on the court and kind of showcased. I think they really would love for the New York Knicks to call them on the phone and start talking about Victor Oladipo tonight. I don't want it as a Knicks fan, but.
It's funny because I was actually reading an article about that earlier today about him to the Knicks and what the Knicks might kind of do. Because I saw basically the blurb was the Rockets are basically telling everyone's available outside of Christian Wood.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know that we really want too many of these guys. I guess some teams might be interested in John Wall to a degree. I guess Oladipo definitely has some value. Outside of those guys, is there really anybody on this team? Is anybody really knocking down the door for a PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon? Any of these guys?
Well, the Wall thing is, do you want to trade for that contract?
Right.
I mean, it made sense with the Russ because it just canceled each other out. But that's to me where I don't think John Wall. I mean, maybe somebody would. I mean, he has been playing well this year. Now we look on the Boston side of the equation. Obviously, Tatum 9,500 on DK, Jaylen Brown 8,200, Marcus Smart, back in the lineup here. So this is a Boston team that is healthy.
Yeah, coming back to health, and they need to really pull things together and find out who they are and make sure that the team we thought they were. Not looking dynamite through most of the season, but coming back to health, hopefully it helps them out a little bit. What it does DFS wise though is they cannibalize the 3 stars anyway, kind of cannibalize one another's numbers to a little bit of a degree when they're all out on the court, and they're all priced pretty appropriately. Kemba might be a little bit underpriced still at 7,100 on FanDuel, but he's drawn pretty close for what he's been this year, 1.03 fantasy points per minute. 7,400 on DK is pretty darn fair. Lower salary cap over there, so that definitely renders him just right around where he should be. And it's a similar story for Tatum and Brown. I think out of the 3 players, the spot that I like best would probably be Tatum on FanDuel. 8,900 for the power forward spot. I think you're getting a slight discount on him there, and he slots in as one of the best power forward options on the board. Paying 9,500 for Jason Tatum on DraftKings, despite the fact that you can move him between both forward spots and move him around your board. It's a tough ask. DraftKings pricing is pretty sharp today. They've done a good job with the pricing. So I think out of the 3, I would prefer Jaylen Brown on DK. You get him as a small forward only, but you're only paying 8,200 for him. I think he gives us a little bit of upside. 1.18 DraftKings points per minute so far this year. We've got him at a 34.2 minute overall projection, and he is second on the team, 21.5 point real life scoring average, 35.3 minutes per game across all situations on the season. Their usage distribution is interesting too. He's at 28.2, Jaylen, across all situations for the season. You get Jaylen at 28.2, Tatum at 28.3, and then Kemba at 25.7. So these guys are essentially dividing 75% of the shots between the 3 of them and doing a fairly equitable job of doing it. So it's interesting. Brown gets a little bit of a benefit from a 17.8 rebounding rate, which could be higher, but a 27.9% assist rate, which is pretty nice. So I think we can get to some Jaylen Brown on DK, but I think overall the 3 of them they do enough to hurt one another where their pricing on DraftKings makes them all just kind of mix and match options. I can get to both Tatum and Brown on FanDuel in varying shares though.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is my highest exposure. I had him at about 17% in the my first crunch. I mean, obviously, I'll be doing some crunches once we get done here to set my lineups. But he is the guy that especially on DraftKings, I'd rather pay $1,700 less or $1,500 less and go to Jaylen Brown as opposed to Tatum. Is there any value plays you like on the Celtics tonight?
Value wise, nobody really jumped off the board for me. I guess if you want to call Daniel Tice on for 4,700 on FanDuel a value play, I can kind of get behind that. The thing was, I would like to get to him with less ownership on him. He's kind of right evenly owned between his ownership and his optimal lineup rate in Alex's numbers. He's producing less this year in his opportunities than he did last year. We had him at 1.01 rate per minute last year. He's down to 0.90. So this hasn't really shocked us and hasn't really, done a ton of producing for us. So based on where we've got him on the board, I'm considering more of a mix and match option. Nobody that I'm going to really go out of my way to force into lineups. Nobody from this team that I really expect to get into, anything exceeding, more than like 35% of lineups, which is where I would think maybe like Tatum and Brown would end up against their 21 and 26% ownership in the public.
Of course, stay up to date with all the latest NBA DFS news with our Twitter handle at Awesemo NBA. Also, you got to follow News God at newsgod_DFS. He is always in there giving you information on who's in, who's out, who's playing, who's got minute restrictions. So you got to check us out over there on Twitter. Be sure to follow News God, NEWZGOD_DFS. Also, be sure to check out the deep dive article, which is free this season and is always a must read over at awesemo.com. Moving on over to Portland and Minnesota. Portland 5-point favorite in this one. 234.5 is your total in this one. And I know a couple hours ago, news came out. No CJ McCollum. Nurkic is also out. Collins is also out.
Yep, which means we can continue rolling out our Damian Lillard shares aggressively, early, often, however you want to put it. I'm all over Damian Lillard again tonight. Love the spot for him. I think it's an anemic defense from Minnesota, and I think he's going to be able to do whatever he wants in this game. And we've seen him producing. He's made that jump to the without McCollum kind of rates that we were expecting. It was something we talked about when it first happened. But he's really raced out to where we expect him. Over their last 15 games, he's averaging 30.5 real life points, 34.3% usage in 35.8 minutes per game. He has a 56.3% assist rate over that stretch. So, I mean, he has just been absolutely dominant in terms of racking up fantasy points in buckets. I can get to all the Lillard today. I have no issues with his ownership, which is high on both sites. I want to exceed his ownership on both sides. I really want to get to a lot of Damian Lillard. I think he's a fantastic play. I don't love the DraftKings price 10-3, but I think we can not sweat it given the ridiculous values that we've got to kind of plug in and move around the board for us. So definitely love the Dame play. And then the other guy that jumped out to me is Enes Kanter. He's a guy that's been relevant, filling in for Nurkic for most of the season. Dominant rebounder and a guy who doesn't get enough credit, I think, for some of what he can do in the low post in terms of just some of the moves and the shake and bake that he's got and the ability to score on things that aren't just putbacks. But he gets a ton of those putback opportunities. He's got a ridiculous offensive rebounding share, which is something I'm scrolling to right now. Is 59.7% of Portland's offensive rebounds land in Enes Kanter's hands, which is insane. It gives him opportunity to score the ball under the rim, kick the ball out for some assists. His 10.9 assist rate is relatively insignificant, but it's not nothing. So he does, average a little bit of stat padding there, and he's 12.2 real life points. 12.2 real life points in 26.5 minutes per game for the season. We've got him projected for a 30-minute run tonight. So we should see a little bit of an uptick in his scoring. He only needs 17% usage to do that too. So again, it's a quality, it's an efficient player. He adds a 1.2 stock per game, which is, he's not known for his defense, but you pick up a little bit out of that. So I really like Kanter. I think the price hasn't jumped in terms of what they should have done with him in against his production for the year. This is a guy who should be in the 7,000s, I think, on both sites. And the public is not getting to him enough. So I like what Canada does both in terms of leverage, in terms of price and upside for us tonight.
Looking at the other side is obviously it all starts with Cat 9,100 on DK, also same price over on FanDuel as well. Minnesota, when I'm kind of flipping around League Pass, this is a team that I just don't know what they're doing. I'm just, the D'Angelo Russell is, I mean, if they're able to trade him, probably not. I don't think anyone's going to necessarily want to take on that. Golden State clearly won that trade, 2 years ago at this point. But what's your thoughts on the T-Wolves?
Yeah, it's all about the first guy you mentioned. It's all about Karl Anthony Towns as far as what I really want to get to. I'll have some of the other pieces, but Cat for 9,100 on both sites, that's low. We know that he came back from COVID and he had his family tragedies and everything, but he's finally kind of just back to focusing on basketball and actually just playing. And I think that price is discounted for us. 9,100 is a 10,000-ish kind of a player. Yeah. So just looking through, he's been 1.39 fantasy points per minute across all situations this year, 22.4 real life points and 32.5 minutes per game over the 14 games since he's come back. 27.4% usage rate, 34.1% of the team's rebounds, 19.4% assist rate is pretty healthy for a center. He's just a terrific option, 2.3 stocks per game. I think he's got 65-point fantasy upside on basically any slate was the way that I phrased it today in my write-up. Going up against a sieve of a defender like Cantor, I think he can definitely get there, and I think the price is right. So I can get to a good amount of Karl Anthony Towns. I wish I had a lot of action on DK because I like the idea of rostering those guys alongside one another. Just pick up all the rebounds from a game that should have a decent amount of missed shots in a pretty fast-paced, up-tempo game. I think we can play that route and maybe get a little unique. I really like Towns on both sides.
Yeah, I know. He by far, obviously, I'm pretty much getting about the same exposure on Cat and Dame in this spot. About 31% is where I was coming in at. But Anthony Edwards was the second highest T-Wolves for me, but he was under 10% exposure.
Yeah, and that's probably around where we want him, I think, on this slate, particularly on FanDuel. He looks a little bit over-owned for the frequency with which we're going to get him in an optimal lineup. The guys on the strategy show talked about it this morning, and it's interesting. He's really not been an efficient player this year. He's produced a number of highlight reel plays and has got some great moments on Top Shot if that's what you're going by. But for the season, 15.4 real life points on 25.4 usage. That's not enough for that much usage. He needs to be scoring the ball more, and it's all about how he's shooting. I looked up his true shooting rate. It's 47.1%. That's pretty ugly. You need to be better than that to stick in the NBA. So 0.89 fantasy point per minute rate. They're tolerating it. He's a kid. He's a rookie. They took him first overall. He's got a lot of room to grow, but he needs to do some growing to become a really, relevant and really good basketball player. For DFS purposes, he's in play, $6,500, not very much to ask for him on FanDuel. So we'll get to him a decent amount, but I think I want to undercut the public on him on FanDuel. He's more of a mix and match piece on DK. I would probably come in more around the field for him on DK. He doesn't stand out in any way. He's just kind of fine, but not a guy I would look to force in. I do like the utility. I love guys on DraftKings where you can get him between a guard spot and a forward spot because you can just play him basically anywhere. So he's got utility. He's got more utility on DK than he does upside on DK.
Yeah, it's you're speaking about a strategy show. They're just kind of talking about the fact that they took Edwards over LaMelo Ball. How bad that currently looks. I mean,
what a mistake.
I mean, hey, you as a Magic fan, when you have that number one pick, you got to hit it right because if you don't, it's just going to set you back for a couple of years. Let's move on to the next game. We got the Clippers and the Pelicans. 6-point favorite here for the Clips. A 232.5 for the under over in this one. And I know I see a ton of questions on this, so we'll just get into it. Paul George, are you going to be overexposed on Paul George, particularly on FanDuel?
Yep. Easy answer. I was the other day. I was something. I think I was in like the 90s on him the other day on FanDuel. I expect I'm going to be in a pretty similar stratosphere, just given the frequency with which he's coming up optimal. That price is wrong. 7,800 on FanDuel is not a correct price. He needs to be more expensive. I'll happily get him at my shooting guard spot. 1.22 fantasy points per minute production this year, down slightly from the 1.25 last year. He's their 1A option, next to Kawhi. There's nothing not to like about the guy. He's around his usual pace, like I said, in fantasy point per minute, gets 33 minutes a game, 23.5 real life points per game, is second on the team, only needs 28.2% usage to do it as well, which is, we see a lot of these stars require over 30%. It might not seem like a dramatic difference, but it helps the team out overall. So he's a good player, good piece of the puzzle. 20.4 rebounding share from a guard spot is great. 30.8% assist rate. He just produces in a number of different ways. Doesn't need to go over the top scoring points in terms of being able to produce fantasy points for us. So really, really like the Paul George play on FanDuel in particular. I would definitely get to him on DK as well. I think he's relevant over there. Getting less overall ownership, but the ownership in relation to how frequently we get him optimally in our simulations is actually a little bit further. He's a little bit more negatively leveraged on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, despite being at a higher price against a lower salary cap. I don't mind that. I'll still get over the public mark. 23%. We can exceed that without taking on too much risk for a player like Paul George.
And looking at the injury side of this game, Pat Beverly is out. JJ Redick is out. In terms of Pat Bev being out, how does that kind of change your thought process in terms of the guards here?
It really, the relevant players for me on both sites on the Clippers side of things are basically the two stars, are basically Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I think everybody else just kind of falls relatively evenly. They're pretty decently priced in that like upper low range or lower mid range, if that makes sense. So I don't think we're getting any real extreme value outliers that jump off the page needing to be played. If you wanted to go to a streaky point reliant guy like a Lou Williams, work him in for 4,900 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DK, I guess, you can do that. If you want to look to, also unreliable guy like a Reggie Jackson, 4,900 at the point guard should see some additional uptick in duties and minutes, 4,600 on DraftKings. They both rank out as fine and mix and match kind of plays, but they're not guys I really want to push too hard for. I think they're just better spots that we can get to for value.
Of course, looking over on the Pelican side of the equation, Zion 9,000 over on FanDuel. He's 8,600 on DK. Brandon Ingram 7,900 on DK. 7,700 over on FanDuel. I mean, look, it starts with Zion. This is a guy that, literally, if you just give him the ball at the top of the key, he's going to get fouled probably 7 out of 10 times. It's just this guy can lead the league in free throw attempt easily, no matter it's clearly his team here. But what's your take on Zion in this position?
Yeah, love getting to the guy. I think he's definitely got a fire truck going by outside. Glad they're not coming here today. I don't know if you heard me yesterday. We had interesting way to wake up yesterday. I won't get into it, but the meth lab next door exploded. So going back to Zion. 1.26 fantasy point per minute producer on the season. And he's really come on over the last stretch. So the breakdown I gave in the deep dive was over the last 15 games. He is get up to 28.5 real life points, leading the team with 29.1% usage, 33.3 minutes per game, 7.1 rebounds per game. It's a 22.7% share of the team's rebounding. You'd think a guy just size and shape wise, like Zion would just naturally fall his way into 10 rebounds per game. He plays alongside Steven Adams, which soaks up some of the rebounding, but that's a number that I think in future years we'll see take a pretty big leap. And at that point, he's going to be a ridiculous fantasy producer for us. But even with his 7.1 per game and the 22.7% share, I think we definitely, get enough out of him that we can go to him, particularly given the scoring. He's also got a 20.2% assist rate, which is interesting. I think it was Spags the other day that I was talking to on one of the shows, who pointed out that when JJ Redick doesn't play, it actually does impact Zion's assist rate and just kind of the spacing and how they do things on the floor. He ends up passing, he ends up not needing to dish so much in set plays where guys like Alexander Walker can create their own shots more than a JJ Redick, who kind of runs off a screen, gets into the corner, and they kick it over to him off of a set play. So Zion picks up some assists that way. So we could see his assist number come down a little bit without JJ Redick on the floor, but I'm not going to sweat that much. The other thing I think is interesting about, again, size and shape-wise, I would expect a little bit more than 1.4 stocks per game, which I think is another number that we see come up from him as he's more acclimated to the NBA in future years. But he does have that, pads the stats a little bit. But yeah, I can get to plenty of Zion on both sides tonight.
Josh Hart's always a guy sometimes it amazes me how many rebounds he does get in the game. That's someone also to kind of in terms of a rebound aspect of it. But to me, I like the price on Zion. I mean, look, but you mentioned about, you just think about, you would hope he get a little more rebounds than he does get there. But yeah, definitely. I want to get a little Zion here. Is there anybody in terms of outside of the big, two there in New Orleans that you want to get to?
Yeah, I can get to assuming that Ingram was the other number, the other one of the big two there. I can get to some of him. The way I put it is, he's very Brandon Ingram. He's priced for exactly who he is. 1.13 fantasy points per minute this year, 1.15 fantasy points per minute last year. Just very consistent production. The sites have him priced appropriately because they know what he's going to be, and he doesn't really change that much. So he doesn't pop, but he doesn't fall flat either. He's coming up around 10-ish% of the time in simulated lineups in the optimal. So I think we can get to him. I think he's more of a mix and match kind of a guy. Most of the other guys fall into that category to a lesser degree. So I could take some shares of Lonzo. I don't think we need him. I could take some shares of Hart. I don't think we need him. So they're just kind of, I'll take what I get guys on that team. None of them are over-owned, but none of them are exploding into a great amount of the optimal lineups either.
Of course, be sure to rock the Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile, and you'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus when you place within the top 3 of any GPP of 5,000 plus entries. Head over to awesemo.com/announcement/avatar, or simply Google search Awesemo Avatar for instructions on how to download the image. One more game here left on the slate, and that'll be, I think, a game we got to talk a lot about. The Bulls here taking on the Raptors. Raptors a 3-point underdog in this one, over under 229.5. And there was an article on The Athletic today mentioning about Billy Donovan's going to change up his starting lineup. Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr. are out. Thomas Satoransky and Thaddeus Young are going to go in, and both those guys are going to get big ownership tonight.
Yeah, and hey, when you can go to a world beater like Tomas Satoransky, I don't know how you avoid that situation. It's just a natural. Yeah, it's a bit of a question mark of a basketball decision and why they're doing this. But I think it thrusts Satoransky certainly into DFS relevance, if nothing else. 3,200 on Draftkings, 3,500 dead minimum on Fanduel, 26.7 minutes projection from Alex when I wrote up the column. Let's see if that's changed, actually. Just want to make sure. The hell did he go? Yep, 26.7 minute projection, 0.82 fantasy minute producer across all situations this year. I think we see potential for a little bit of improvement on that mark across this slate. And at no salary whatsoever, he's extremely relevant, particularly on DraftKings. He's coming up in nearly 30% of the simulated optimal lineups. So I think he's very, very relevant on the slate. For all situations this season, he does have a 36.7% assist rate. So it's, he's a producer. He's a guy who can distribute the ball. He's not going to go out and score 50 real life points by any means, but for the salary, I think he can definitely produce in this spot. So unless we get some kind of news that despite starting, he's going to be limited to X and Kobe White's going to get his usual minutes off the bench, I think we can roll with it. That the minutes would be the one question mark, but it's entirely salary based. He's at such a good price that we can roll with it.
Yeah, Josh mentioned that on the strategy show. Basically, these guys are going to start the game, but when we get into crunch time, are we going to see the typical rotations we see out of the Bulls? But obviously, Billy Donovan trying to change things up. Of course, the Raptors, we all know what they have been going through with the health and safety protocols. So no Van Vliet, no OG, McCall, Flynn, all out here. Siakam also out here. So obviously, you're going to look. Kyle Lowry is obviously the guy you're looking at when it comes to the Raptors.
Yeah, it's funny. I think at a certain point, I might just have to start copy pasting some of these until some of these players come back, because we've just had a lot of these, same value situations over and over again with some of these teams. Lowry's very, very interesting again tonight. With those guys off the floor, he's just spectacularly valuable and spectacularly relevant. Let's see. Most recently, same situation was just last night. 19 real life points, 30.9 minutes, 23.7% usage. Deferred a little bit to Terrence Davis and Norman Powell, who both saw upticks in their usage, produced some point scoring. Over the 4 games that we've been without both Van Vliet and Siakam, as well as OG Anunoby, Lowry's got a 57.0 assist share. One of the top point guard options. Stands out more on FanDuel, just given the salary differential. So he's got 8,400 on FanDuel, 86 against the lower salary cap overall on DK. I think we can get to him on both sites. And what I love is that the public is not getting to him enough. He's owned for sure, but I think he should be higher owned than he is. So I'm happy to flex up above that ownership mark on the public on both sides.
In terms of the value spots in this game, what do you like getting to? I mean, obviously we mentioned about Satoransky of going to him, but who else?
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of our values on both sites from both teams in this game. It's an interesting spot. So we've got Thad Young is another guy that was thrust into the starting lineup. FanDuel's got him priced up to 68, but he's still kind of relevant going by Alex's numbers. He's produced up to 1.19 fantasy points per minute this year. So FanDuel made the right decision keeping his price high after he had gained some ground in overall production earlier in the season and kind of earned that number. Draftkings knocked him back down. He's only 5,700 over on DK, and you get him at power forward and center. Public's not getting to him enough. He's landing in like 30% of our optimal lineups as well. He's a guy who can produce for us on the court in real life situations. Let's see. He is 1.39 fantasy points per minute across all situations, and that was the only full stat I included. I thought I'd pick up a little bit on his rebounding. Let's see what he's got for a rebounding rate, just to throw some valuable info toward everybody's direction here. So for the season across all situations, Thad has a 26.5% rebounding share, and that is a 48.8% offensive rebounding as a share. So he sees some opportunities under the rim on the offensive side of things, can really get things done when he's in the starting lineup. It just, again, is going to come down to the minutes, how they handle that in closing run. If it's a particularly close game, which it's projected to be, I think it was a 3-point spread the last I saw, we could see some of these guys not get full closing runs. So I'm interested to see how it shakes out, but there's definite value there in Thad. I don't know that I would wrestle with Patrick Williams today, given the question marks in the front court, but he's at a nice price at 4,300 on FanDuel, 4,200 on DK. So if we had any kind of news that he would see additional minutes, we could definitely go that route. I think given that Lauri Markkanen is more priced for a starting role, we don't really need to get to him. I think he's more mix and match piece. And then value-wise, the rest of the Raptors is kind of a good answer to that question. If you wanted to go to any of DeAndre Bembry, Norm Powell, Stanley Johnson, Aaron Baines, even Terrence Davis gave us value last night. I don't know that I'd get to him tonight, but all of those other guys are significant plays. Powell doesn't belong on that list just because of salary, but he's in play despite he's a $7,800 small forward on FanDuel, $7,400 shooting guard small forward on DK. I mentioned before I like the shooting guard small forward flex to move him around the board. So I would get to more of them on DraftKings, but I think he's relevant on both sites. And all those other guys are extreme value plays, probably Bembry most of all.
Of course, coming up next will be NBA Live Before Lock, as Emac and Eric will take you up till 7 o'clock Eastern time, answering your questions about all of these games. Of course, if you're not subscribed here to the channel, be sure to subscribe to Awesemo on YouTube, hit that notification bell, plus also be sure to give us a thumbs up. Yeah, just looking over my exposure, and Lowry and Powell are pretty identical, around 36%, but DeAndre coming in for me at 31%, looking at a little value there.
Yeah, for sure. I think he makes a ton of sense. And it's just mostly about that salary, right? He's a 0.71 fantasy point per minute producer for the year. The upside is a little bit limited overall, but he's at a salary, and he's got the positioning that allows us to get to a lot of other things. And sometimes it's not about what this individual guy is going to do for you, but it's about how he lets you access all the other spots on the slate. So for 4,100 at the shooting guard spot on FanDuel in particular, the public's not getting to him enough. He's got a pretty big leverage score in Alex's numbers. And the same is true on DK. You get him only as a small forward. I'd love the opportunity to be able to flex him at that price. But you do have the util spot, so you can move him around a little bit. And the public's, he's got a very large leverage score over there as well. He's a player that people just don't love to get to. He's let people down in spots where he's had opportunity before. And I mentioned he's not a primetime producer, 0.71 fantasy point per minute guy. Just taking a look at some of his raw scoring averages. He only puts up 4.8 real life points per game in 17.4 minutes per game standard situations for the season. But we're expecting him to get more run than that. Alex has him projected for 32 minutes tonight. So extrapolating his points per minute out across that run, he's going to be relevant, and the public is not there. So I like that, and I like, more to the point, what he does in other spots, giving us some salary to work some of those bigger players in.
We'll leave on this note. Zach LaVine, he's a guy who's coming about 17% for me. I mean, obviously their offense, runs through Zach. I mean, where's Zach kind of fit up when you're talking about other guards that you're looking for tonight?
I'm very curious to see where LaVine comes out in crunches for me. I think he's pretty appropriately priced. He's having a killer year. His true shooting percentage, 65.5. That is really solid for a guy who puts up as many shots as he does and is aggressive offensively as he is. So really, really like the player. I like the spot. I'm curious to see, just in terms of where salary gets spent in some of these other players I'm probably going to be getting to in some other positions. I don't know that he doesn't get forced out around the edges. I'm hoping that I get him in enough of my crunches that when I put him into my sorting table, the leverage score pulls him up, because he's got a phenomenal leverage score on FanDuel. FanDuel players, you are not getting Zach LaVine in your lineups enough. 9.4 leverage score in Alex's metric. Only a 2.6 leverage score on DK, but that's not nothing. That's positive leverage, and that's a player and a spot that I'd be willing to go negative for sure. He's less optimal on DraftKings just because you're getting 9,200 salary against that lower cap. You're starting to bump up against some star caliber players there, so it would come down to how he shook out. But on FanDuel in particular, I want to get to a good amount of Zach LaVine if I can.
Of course, coming up here next is NBA Live Before Lock. Emac and Eric are going to take you up until lock here at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, special thanks to our sponsor, No House Advantage. That's going to do it for myself and Terry. Keep it locked here at Awesemo.com. Coming up next is NBA Live Before Lock. Peace.
Social media is down, so if you guys want to retweet my tweet, that would be good. Sorry, Jordan.
Yo.
We got 50 more seconds. Gotta loosen up here. Little chicken wing.
GT's coming with the players, baby.
Little lawnmower. All right, awesome. Well, here we go. We got smooth flow here as we head into NBA Live Before Lock. It is your old pal Emac coming to you with one Eric Lindquist as we get ready to break down Sunday night basketball. 6-gamer. You get a bonus. We are actually going to be going an extra half hour tonight for our sponsor, No House Advantage. We have free projections for their site. We have free optimal lineups already created for you. Key thing about them is it's player props. So tonight's contest is a big one, $10,000 GPP. There are 10 questions that you will be answering, and you will be ranking those questions within with confidence points, 10 through 1. And if you are correct, that is how you score your points. So you're going against other gamers, not the house. There is no house advantage. Sign up today. Anybody who makes a deposit today, in addition to new signups, gets a $20 deposit bonus using the promo code Awesemo. So definitely give that one a look. We'll talk about them as we do the full special show for them. We also have the promo code Shamrock to celebrate the NBA second half. We've got a special deal for all first-time users. Get 50% off the Awesemo full premium weekly pass. We use the promo code Shamrock at checkout. That's $15 for all access to everything DFS. NBA, PGA, NHL, NASCAR, MMA, soccer, esports, and oh yeah, we've got projections for March Madness. The projections are fire. They're Matt Gajewski, tuna infused. What do you think about that, Eric?
Love. The guy's pretty good at college basketball, not going to lie. I would be checking that out. And this is the week where everybody turns into a college basketball tout as if they've been watching it all year. They have all these hot takes and they're like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen and that was going to happen. It's annoying. He is the guy who's been grinding it every single day throughout the year. I trust him more than anybody else in the industry.
I have no take. Some people are bracketologists. I am not.
God, don't even.
What's up, CJ Kaltenbach? Hey, favor for all you guys. I'm dropping this. I'm under the Awesemo account. I'm dropping this tweet into the chat. If you guys could retweet that, we'd appreciate it. Do not, I repeat, do not use the word Memphis in any Twitter interactions today. If you do,
what a weird thing.
They're giving you a 12-hour suspension. Hey, guess what? We got hit with that on our sports account, talking about Memphis. So no Awesemo _COM tweets for the next, I think we're down to 6 hours. So, but there you go. If you guys could do that, we would appreciate it. Let's jump on into the fun here. Let's see. We have some interesting news from Toronto and Chicago. The interesting news, everybody out again for the COVID protocols on the Toronto side. However, Chicago shaking up their starting lineup. I don't know why. They're going to be starting Tomas Satoransky and Thaddeus Young. To the bench will be Kobe White and Wendell Carter Jr. How do you feel about this considering the draft capital tied up in Kobe White and Wendell Carter Jr.?
It's outrageous. For me, though, the thing is Thad Young has been just so consistent. Go through that box score. It's outrageous. He's got one of the lower standard deviations. It's below 10. He's a guy who just continues to kind of get there in a lot of different ways. 5,700 seems expensive, but like if you get any kind of a minutes bump for him in this spot, like as long as he like gets maybe a 3-4 plus minutes boost, you're looking at a guy that stands out like big time for me here. Satoransky is a tough guy to get a gauge on for this 3,200. You got to expect that Kobe White's still going to come in and get minutes. Like I don't know necessarily. Again, this is all just a guessing game. But Thomas Satoransky is a guy who has won me money in the past, so I have good vibes with him. But God, 3,200 even for him on the floor there. I think there's a lot of different ways to go on this slate. I've got one or two guys that are kind of sneaky that I'm hoping to be able to talk about a little bit later. But I think there's a lot of guys in this like 3,000 to 3,600 range that you can take some shots on just for minutes. Obviously, I think Satoransky is the guy who has the most minutes upside out of all of them, but obviously comes with the most popularity too.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on all of it. It's just what are we doing now? At least they're not doing the full. Separately, what about OKC? Literally trying to tank and they keep winning. They won today.
Aren't they like 2.5 back or now 1.5 back in the play-in tournament?
Game. Yeah, they're right there. It's insane. They sat like 7 guys today, I think, for a variety of reasons.
Gilgeous-Alexander is so good at basketball. That's really what it comes down to. The dude is special. He's God, he's wicked getting to the hoop. I've loved watching him. That rookie year with the Clippers was just like, wow. And I understand getting Paul George for him. There's only so many things you can do to get Paul George, but what a great pickup for them. And obviously they've got 48 first-round picks coming down the pipeline the next 5 years. So they've got a good future in store.
All right. And shout out to Louis V. He got, or Luis V. He got the Fred VanVleet contest last night. Today's contest filled up, but that's one of those. If you join, rep the Awesemo avatar in that, and you win, we'll give you 30 free days of Awesemo premium content. That is a $90 value. It's just $1. Top 20 get paid. And I have to play Fred VanVleet or his direct backup. Last night I played all of Toronto. It did not go well. And my cash lineups, we'll drop some cash lineups later too. I went 1-9. I pity the person who lost to my 227 in my cash lineup.
I had a great night on DK, but I had a 2v2 that I kept going back and forth on 2 different lineups. And I didn't play Bembry, which ended up being gigantic. I hated the Troy Brown play, but I needed the savings on it for one lineup that ended up finishing well in the $20. It was very, very sad.
Yes. Tulsa Dog says my wired earphones look like the Houston Texans logo. I don't know, but I was able to charge the wireless headphones. I just haven't got them set up on this computer. I want you to know, Jordan, this is how much of a jinx I am. When I first turned them on and got them, they didn't work on my phone. My wife's like, I just had them on. She said, give me these, go stand on the other side of the room. And then she did it and they worked. So there we go. I am a technical jinx. but
those headphones are from 1984. Those things are frazzled.
These have seen better days. These
for sure.
They're the last pair my dog hasn't eaten yet. So that still has the one adapter that works with the Blue Yeti. So
unreal.
All right.
Unreal.
Let's get on to some of our other games here. We'll kind of hit on all of them, just talking the highlights. There's one 7:00 game tonight. That is Miami at, I think it's at Orlando. Miami actually, I believe Orlando beat him a couple games ago. In any event, no Bam Adebayo. He's missing his 4th game for knee tendonitis. Gabe Vincent should be back after missing 3 games of his own with the knee injury. Out for Orlando. Now, this is important. A lot of these guys are regularly out, but we just want to highlight it once again. Aaron Gordon, out with an ankle again. He had come back and then he's out again. Evan Fournier been dealing with that groin injury. Got James Ennis, who can't seem to stay healthy for more than 6 or 7 games. He's out with the calf. Terrence Ross, available, not starting, has missed the last 2 games with the knee injury, available to play. Do you trust Terrence Ross? And tell us how awesome Nikolai Vucevic is at basketball in his age 30 season. It's impressive.
Yeah. I thought listening to the strategy show, I mean, that it is crazy hearing all the talk about Vooch, about him getting moved possibly to Charlotte, possibly to some of the other spots. But my boy Rinpack crushed it this morning, so that was enjoyable to watch. But pretty sure for the most part, this is like one of the more intriguing spots on this entire slate. I always find it ironic with these Miami and Magic games. And now they're playing each other, obviously 208 total, but yet there's like 3 or 4 guys that I could play on both sides of the ball. I think my favorite on the Miami side for the most part is going to be Dragic, 5,300. We saw minutes up into the 30s. If you get Hero off the floor here, he got downgraded to questionable. That's usually a bad omen for somebody leading up to lock when they get downgraded in the middle of the afternoon. I just think that he's going to be somebody who pops at 5,300 over on Fanduel. I could get to a little bit at 6,200, but a little less intriguing over on DK. Obviously, you still have the Kelly Olynyk play. He's 4,500. Fanduel just isn't watching basketball at the moment, so that's enjoyable to get all of these ridiculous price tags for some of these dudes going down the line. So I definitely have some interest there. So those would be the 2 to stand out. But then also Jimmy Butler over 10K on FanDuel, and I'm still getting to him there. 9,400 on DraftKings. I'm very, very interested. So I'm going to keep going to that side. On the other side of the ball for the Magic, Terrence Ross, obviously there's going to be some uncertainty on what those minutes are going to be, but I think that uncertainty could possibly lower his ownership a tiny bit. Hasn't played for, the week. He played on the 12th. No, he did not play on the 12th for their first game back. So I do like getting some Terrence Ross exposure. We saw coming out of the break, he played 36 and 41 minutes those 2 games previous. I'm not expecting 36, but even at like 32, 34, they didn't say anything about an express minutes limit. He's now at the small forward position over on FanDuel. Somebody that I'm definitely going to get to a lot. Just even if you were to project him, 36 minutes. Right now, Awesemo has him for 37. I'm happy to get to as much of him as possible.
All right, I do want to correct myself. I had gotten confused between my Trae Young write-up and my Nikolai Vucevic write-up. I did know it was 4 games ago that Miami lost, but it was to Atlanta, not to Orlando. I don't
call you out on these things.
My apologies.
You caught yourself.
Oh, chat let me know, but that's okay.
Well, there's that too.
I usually try not to guess. Very important that we are accurate in our information. When you're guessing, that does not do anything for
Stop guessing, start winning, baby.
That's right. Promo code Shamrock, 50% off any first-time user of Awesemo. 1 week, $15, all access.
So seamless. Just what a stud. Good Lord. You're too good. Too good.
Yes, I am amazing. Oh, wait. Sorry. Back to reality. Here we go. All right. Anything else you want to hit on the Miami game? And don't worry, we're going to cruise through our various games. Chat. We'll talk No House Advantage at the 7:00 lock at 7:01. We're doing an extra half hour for them. Their big contest tonight, $10,000 is up for grabs. You'll want to check that out. You can use the promo code Awesemo. Everybody today gets a $20 deposit match. That's a 1 day only special that they're doing since we're doing the extra show for them. So even if you have already signed up over at No House Advantage, you can deposit another $20. They'll match it for you. Let's see, Cleveland and Houston. No Taurean Prince.
Didn't you just ask me if there was anything else I wanted to add?
Yeah,
I had one other guy that I thought we had to talk about for a second. Michael Carter Williams over on FanDuel is going to gain a lot of popularity, 4,900 over there. He continues to be somebody who's owned over on FanDuel because that price just never comes up. He's not the most exciting guy to roster. he's not the most exciting, but again, Satoransky at 3,500 at the floor there is going to gain a lot of notoriety. Ricky Rubio at that same price range, 4,800. Maybe a guy that you can take some shots on. If he fell into a couple lineups, I wouldn't care about it too much. But again, there are so many good point guard plays on this slate in a lot of ways up and down the lineup. And I want to get up to as much Dame as possible. So just taking up a roster spot, I'm probably not going to do it as much as what I have been in the past here, but somebody you can still take some shots on, sure.
All right. Apologies there. I wanted to get over to Atlanta. We have 3 game time decisions here. Trae Young, who didn't play. I mean, they didn't need him as much last night, kind of a blowout there against the Kings. However, he is now a game time decision with a quad bruise. I'm seeing listed as probable, but again, we don't know for sure where that's going to fall. That is the 7:30 lock, so we'll have to address that. Clint Capella, questionable with a heel injury. I don't know what's going on with there. And then now Onyeka Okongwu. Apologies to his family.
As close as one can get. There you go. Sorry to his family and friends for the abomination that was that pronunciation.
Yeah, apologies. So what do we do here? Do you have a lean on any of these guys? And then you have John Collins, who's 5,900.
You play John Collins. Yeah, you play John Collins on FanDuel. I mean, that price, if you get, 5,900 against Cleveland in this spot would just be an absolute smash. He would definitely be I already have 40%. I'm probably going to go over top of that as long as we get that news. Trae Young is a gigantic piece in a lot of things. I mean, it's a quadricep, so I don't really know what to think about that. Kind of a injury I would expect against Cleveland, that they could maybe punt it and find a way to get it done. But Rajon Rondo would be your guy there in that spot. But obviously up and down the lineup there, Kevin Huerter would be way, way, way too cheap at 5,300. I mean, you would have interest in so many parts of the ball, however that news comes out. Again, I love late swapping. I love getting into some of these other pieces as news starts to come out. But it seems as though Trae Young's going to play, so that's not really going to be an issue. So we're not going to have to think about that. But Danilo Gallinari, 5,600. That's just going to be too expensive for me too over on FanDuel. Going to be hard to get to a lot of that. We haven't seen the usage come over 20% in the last couple. He's somebody who's shooting volume dependent. There's obviously a million small forwards to go to specifically out of this Houston Rockets team on FanDuel and Draftkings. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting spot. But John Collins is the plug and play for me.
All right, let's hit that like button. You guys want to have money time. We're going to go with the Sunday discount. It's Pi Day, so we're going to go with not 314. We're going with 400. Happy medium there between the 500 for Spags. We have almost 2,000 people watching. You only got to get a couple hundred more. We got 17 minutes to get there. I know you guys can do that. One thing I did want to point out, you mentioned the strategy show. I was listening to that on my podcast when I was walking the dog later this afternoon. We have the Awesemo Podcast Network, where everything but live before locks go into the network. We have the main channel, and then we also have it broken out by sport. You can find any of those on any podcast platform. That was going to be.
We just got that news. Capella
Sally selling seashells by the seashore. Who's out?
Capella. Bang. So did Okongwu. Just smash Collins. Just party it up.
I wrote up Collins as my bust of the day. That was when I thought everybody was playing. I have to write this thing at 10 in the morning. So.
I understand the struggle. I write an article the night before every day, which can be outdated in 5 seconds, or it's actually been holding some relevancy. I've been trying to talk a little bit more strategy, a little bit more for the Slate Starter article that kind of comes as a combo to the Slate Starter podcast. But talking strategy has been a little bit more useful than just specifically plays, talking situations, what could not happen, just so you're prepared. Obviously, I did not expect Capella to play. I already kind of preloaded 40%. Now I'm going to bump it up a little bit more for Collins on both sites.
All right. You have the Slate Starter article. We have the Slate Starter show that comes out overnight. I'm dropping the link into chat today. Which one is this? That is the deep dive that's written. Terry wrote 6,600 words today on today's slate. That's 1,000 words per game, 500 words per team.
Oh man,
check that out. It's free for everything. I also do one myself. It's called DFS Building Blocks. That comes out usually by lunchtime, and I'll drop that link in there as well. Cover what I call core plays. Key thing about this is I'm trying to pick players that will be good throughout the day. These are not the people that will lose value. There will be better value options appearing. It's hard for me to write about those. Sometimes the busts go away quickly because in like with John Collins, well, yes, had everybody played today, he has scored more than 30 FanDuel points twice in his last 6 games. We gave him a 1 in 4 chance of making the FanDuel optimal lineup using the boom bust total. He has about a 1 in 4 chance of exceeding his threshold boom score. He has done that in 2 of the last 8 games, which is, wait for it, oh my gosh, 1 in 4. Math is your friend today on Pi Day. But that's how we use the boom bust tool. So I like to talk about different things in there. These are teachable moments and something that is worthwhile to check out. It's about a 5-minute read each day. Put a couple hours into it, but it's good stuff. This is the stuff we have in front of the paywall, stuff behind the paywall. Check it out. Promo code Shamrock, that's going away in 72 hours. Here's your chance to get all access 1 week of everything Awesemo. Definitely going to want to check that out. Cleveland, they no word on Kevin Love. What he did, I didn't go back and look. Did he play his exactly 10 minutes that they said in that first game?
Let me check.
Does that muck anything up with Larry Nance Jr., who is back? I think he played about 28 minutes in the last one.
Yeah, he looked good actually. He's a guy that I kind of was getting to quite a bit in the aftermath of this. So we got to talk about this from a couple of perspectives. So you get both centers basically for Atlanta are going to be out. I don't know between Knight and Fernando kind of who to go to. I think you could at the min take some shots weirdly on both, but I don't think I really need to go there. I've got another guy in mind that I think makes a little bit better punt. But my God, Jared Allen becomes just such a smash in a lot of ways for this game. He becomes exponentially better. Already a guy that was grading out pretty well for Awesemo, 30 and a half minutes. Was looking at right around 8%. I want to get on top of 8% on FanDuel for sure. I think that's going to be a great spot, a great leverage spot at the position where you can only use one. And then on FanDuel, on DraftKings, 8,200. He had below 5% ownership. I'm definitely going to get a little bit on top of that too. I do a lot of shows with Greg Ehrenberg, and he talks a lot about how we forget to factor in the other side of the matchup. And it's true. A lot of players just, somebody gets ruled out. We go to that team, we jam in the value from them. We got to look at this from the perspective that like Jared Allen has uninhibited run at the center position that he is just going to terrorize John Collins for. So I'm excited to get to a little bit of that there. We'll see what that Atlanta starting lineup looks like. I'm expecting it's not going to get too crazy, but man, you could take some random shots. I'm excited to see what Awesemo kind of factors in for some of these backups leading up to lock here.
We do have, so it did come out. Trae Young is available to play.
Yep.
So that
he was probable. He had the Q tag next to him on DraftKings, but I was kind of expecting him to. It was just like Yep, I know. I get nervous this time of year in general. Before the trade deadline, you see guys just disappear for no reason. And obviously we got the PG-13 thing, which I'm now, it's now infamous for me. So that's exciting. Yeah.
He's back. We'll be talking about him shortly.
God. And boy, do I have a lot again. Enjoy the fade, everyone.
All right. Darius Garland remains probable. He's missed the last couple games with groin injury. We could see the sex land love combination.
God, why? Just you had to?
I had to. I'm contractually obligated. You know what I'm also contractually obligated to do? Mention that Andrew Kang just dropped us a $20 super chat. He says, "What's up, guys? I always play the 222 through the $50 contest and a bunch of cash games. Somehow I never knew the 100K contest was just 333. My boy Gene B. Kim put me down. I'm max entered in there tonight. I'm taking it down, boys." He's calling a shot. I like the confidence. I like the super chat.
Let's go. Good luck, buddy.
Good times. Anything else on this either side? Danilo Gallinari, perhaps? Do you think Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to play a lot? Much back-to-back for him?
I'm just not that interested in some of those other pieces. Again, we have so many different spots we can try to take some shots on value. I'd rather take my shot on value near the minimum on this slate, get a little bit more stars and scrubsy, kind of fill it up that way. He's just a little bit too much in the middle ground. 3,800 even on FanDuel. Like I just don't feel like going there too much. I could see if you needed to, but I mean there's no ownership there. He's under 2% on FanDuel. I'm just not going to do it.
All right. I am just making sure I don't have Clint Capella in those lineups. I do not. Let's see. I wanted to talk. We got that Houston starting lineup, but we'll save that for just a moment. Let's talk about why did I not write them up? There they are. Paul George. So Paul George going against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Clippers do play tomorrow in Dallas. That is a back-to-back, but as far as we know, we do have full run for George and Kawhi Leonard. I do want to point out, for those of you that may not have noticed, Paul George is now going to be monitoring his caffeine intake to avoid any dizzy spells. He has played just once in the last 10 days, and also his All-Star break appearance. I want to point out the Pelicans, they started off good or decent the first month on defense. They've fallen off a cliff. They are third worst in the league with 115.9 points allowed per 100 possessions. Over their last 10 games, that is 117.2. The nice thing, they're averaging about 115 offensive efficiency per 100 for their possessions, which keeps games close. I want to point out that Paul George is just 35 on Yahoo. He's the Yahoo play of the day, 78 on Fanduel, 81 on Draftkings. These are phenomenal plays. You can probably put in on Yahoo there Reggie Jackson. He's just $12. I'm assuming he will step into the starting lineup once again with Pat Beverly out for the next 3 games. JJ Redick is out with a heel injury. On the other side, he will miss probably 2 or 3 games. What they're saying, a non-surgical heel procedure. I have no idea what that means, but that's what it said. I'm not a doctor, nor did I stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. Take it away. You are the Paul George not whisperer.
I'm the Paul George enabler, where I enable myself to play Paul George, and then he gets late scratched when there's nothing I can do about it because we're on a show and there's 30 seconds. Apparently people had like 30 seconds or a minute to be able to react to that, because I know Rinpack was able to get out of pretty much every single share that he had. That was nice to hear afterwards. That was great. I enjoyed that conversation. But he's just a misprice over on FanDuel. Like, get to as much of him as what you really want to. It wouldn't really bug me whatsoever. I had them as actually second. They have the second worst defensive rating, I believe, is what it is in the entire league right now. A team that you just need to be targeting in general. I was excited about their profile coming into the season. They kind of had a fluky first month or first like 2 or 3 weeks where they were kind of stopping teams at the bucket, and it was just going a little bit wonkier than I was expecting. But they're back to the regular Pelicans I was expecting. 8,100 on DraftKings, I'm still getting to a little bit, but 7,800 on FanDuel is, again, just a misprice. So a lot of my exposure is him and Oladipo today.
All right. As you branch out across the rest of this game, any interest in Zion, Kawhi, Brandon Ingram? I believe you have a love-hate relationship with Brandon Ingram as well.
Oh, it's all love. He's a guy that I just was flat out wrong about. I grew up a Duke fan, kind of randomly still cheer for them in random spots. And Brandon Ingram was a guy that I just never was a fan of at Duke. I was not a fan of him with the Lakers. And then something switched that like sophomore year for him on the front end of it. And then getting the trade over there, he was somebody that I targeted in some dynasty leagues to get from that first couple weeks. I just love him as a pure scorer at this point in time. I thought he was going to bulk up. He really is not bulked up. It's very strange. But he's just kind of an offensive specimen. If you could ever add some counting stats for himself in some spots, there's just a lot of untapped upside that always exists there. I generally like paying up to him on a small forward position, but again, we have some small forward options. Even Kawhi Leonard, I don't mind getting to quite a bit of on FanDuel. He kind of was sticking out for me there. It's hard for me to like want to play. I don't know. I have kind of a mental block about playing him and Paul George together. So I always end up with a little bit less when Paul George is priced the way that he is, because they kind of have been profiling much closer than they did from last year. So I'm going to just kind of ride more of the Paul George train there and kind of punt in some other spots. But between Kenyon Martin, between Kevin Porter Jr., between some of the Larry Nance I had, I really am going to find it tougher to get up to Kawhi there and tougher than normal to get to Brandon Ingram. Zion, speaking of consistency at the power forward position, if I'm going to talk about Thad Young, Zion's been equally more impressive. He did have the one dud the other night that kind of was at an unforeseen time for me. I needed him to kind of come through. Now 30 and 33, the last two. Obviously, they just blew out Cleveland. It didn't really matter. Had a 41.5% usage rate in that game as well. Zion 9K. It's still going to be too cheap. I'm expecting him to be to 10K by the end of the year.
All right, when you got another 80 or so likes to get to before we're going to get to money time here in honor of Chris Baggs, I will be giving you the handout here. We'll have one more ownership run by then, but get us to 400. We'll unlock the keys to the kingdom here. We are staying on for an extra half hour to talk about our sponsor, No House Advantage. Their big $10,000 contest is locking tonight at 7:30. We have free projections and free optimal lineups for them. You can find those at Awesemo. Go under NBA, and then under the drop down, it will say No House Advantage. You can choose either of those options and open those pages. Check it out. It's player props. We'll be talking about those, but basically what we're doing is we're taking Alex's model and sharing with you the likelihood of success. You choose 10 of their 50 or so questions that they have tonight, rank them with a confidence order 10 down to 1, and then you will be able to enter into the contest, play against everybody else, and that's how the fantasy points score. You're not going with prop bets against the house. That's why there is no house advantage. You're playing against other gamers in formats that we are used to seeing. We'll spend some time talking about that, but everybody today, if you make a deposit of $20 and use the promo code Awesemo, will get $20 extra. That's normally that's new users, but today they're doing that for everybody. They want people to come in and enjoy the contest. There will likely be overlay in that contest. All righty, let's see. Let's go to the Timberwolves Portland game, and then we'll get to Houston. We'll see if we get any more information coming out on Houston. There we do have their starting lineup, but I want to point out last night Timberwolves game was excellent, did not disappoint. 125-121. Portland came away with the victory. We saw reasonably good performances from Damian Lillard, Enes Kanter, and Karl Anthony Towns. We just got word that Jared Culver is missing a third game now with this toe injury. We have Jordan McLaughlin still in the health and safety protocol, Malik Beasley dealing with his suspension, and D'Angelo Russell out still recovering from knee surgery. There is nobody left in the backcourt. Anthony Edwards should again be able to hoist close to 20 shots in this one. Ricky Rubio, though he was kind of last night, he's still a reasonable value play here that we can go to with a little more certainty. Rookie Jalen Noel coming off the bench should see 24 to 26 minutes. He gets a couple more attainable there if he's going to continue his excellent play. He's just been shooting lights out for this one. And then Karl Anthony Towns, I do want to point out in his last two back-to-backs, he played 31 and 32 minutes. However, in that 31-minute game, he did foul out. His first back-to-back after returning from COVID was about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. He did play, I think, 36 or 37 minutes in that back-to-back. I don't foresee any issues with his minutes tonight either, but I wanted to point that one out. What do you dislike from this game? Oh, and hat tip to Carmelo Anthony. He was the 11th all-time scorer in the NBA now.
So this was actually a really good game yesterday to be able to factor in, because it was a Timberwolves game that actually stayed close, which has been a while for that. We haven't seen a rotation, kind of what that rotation would look like. There are two things that really kind of stick out to me from that. One, Ricky Rubio played 33 minutes. That makes him a much better play. I was going back and forth with Greg before, and obviously I think he got a little burned by the fact that they had a blowout where they ran the Pelicans out of the gym, which made no sense to me. So I probably had a bad take about Ricky Rubio and his minutes. I didn't know if they were going to get him over 30 minutes. He got to 33. So that's a very exciting thing to me. The other thing that really sticks out just in terms of where they're at in terms of the board, Juancho Hernan-Gomez re-entered the rotation. He played 24 minutes. He's at the flat min on Draftkings, and he has 0 ownership. So he played the entire second quarter. He played adequately well. This is a new coaching staff. These are new rotations. He was basically out of it the last 2 leading into it. He has no ownership at the absolute flat min on DK, and I think that's flat out wrong. I think if he played 22, 24 minutes, there's a little bit of an upside that exists there. He came in at the second quarter. So Karl Anthony Towns, I'm looking at Popcorn Machine right now. Karl Anthony Towns was off the floor for that first 3.5 minutes of that second quarter. So you get a little boost to the rebounding rate there for everybody. So Juancho Hernan-Gomez is a guy that I can't believe has 0 ownership at the moment. I maybe it'll come up or whatever, but I feel like that's just a thing that stuck out to me, where he's kind of the guy who's playing 24 minutes. You had Jaden McDaniels play 22. He's going to be higher owned. You had Jared Vanderbilt, who basically has been a glorified starter and does nothing else, played 13 minutes. That was just kind of, maybe it's a 1-game outlier. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. but I'm going to have well more than the field on DraftKings than what everybody else is looking at. Maybe that's just a wrong idea by me. I know he doesn't project out well. Awesemo doesn't have him projected for much, but considering the game was close, considering he played well, I expect him to get at least 18 minutes again. And at the flat min, I'm taking some shots. He's kind of the one guy that I was alluding to earlier where I'm going to be over the field on a guy who feels uncomfortable. And that's one that could be something that just gives me a different lineup construction. As long as I'm zeroing out that salary, I'm going to be having a very, very unique lineup.
What do you feel about Naz Reid in this one? Because he played a few less minutes than I had expected. I never know what to do with him, but I think this is a decent matchup for both him and Wancho to get theirs.
Yeah, so I'm a Timberwolves guy, and which
that's
is
right.
hard to be that. So I've unfortunately
Jake Layman revenge didn't work out. Is he
I like
to
torture
again?
myself and watch just about all of those games, so it's awful. Naz Reid's a guy who's a gigantic fantasy point per minute monster. Problem is you're not going to get many minutes with Cat playing 34 there, as long as this game stays close, which is always a question mark with them. For one reason or another, but like Portland in general, like Cat is going to do work on Canner, and then if Naz Reid were to get any kind of a surplus of minutes, but he's just not going to get them right now. I mean, I'm looking at his last rotation, 14 last time out. He's just not really playable at 4K on both sites. Again, I would rather, this is so gross, I'd rather take my shots on Wancho Hernangomez at the flat min.
Yeah, I should have said I was looking at him a little bit more with a Yahoo lens where he's 10 or 11, I forget which is just $1 off the floor. But yeah, no, that's good points here. All right, it's going to be money time. Come on, we're 18 likes away. Hit those. I just dropped 10 $1 head-to-heads over there on the DraftKings game. I went 1-9 yesterday. You guys want to scoop these up? This is my team free money in honor of money time. Let's hit refresh here, see if we got an update. Our last one was 18 minutes ago. 11 seconds ago. I like when this works out. You may want to refresh your stuff. I'm going to talk for just a moment here so you have time to pull anything into your model that you would like. Let's start over here on DraftKings. We have Kevin Porter, and we'll be talking about the Houston Rockets team next. Kevin Porter, 46%. Damian Lillard, 27%. That's a huge gap down. Thad Young, 27. He's going to be starting, as is Tomas Satoransky, who is 25 on DK. Karl Anthony Towns, 25. John Collins, 25. And Paul George, 24. Moving over to Fanduel, it's John Collins, who's no longer my bust of the day now that Clint Capella's out, but he is all the way up to 42% at just 5,900. You have Paul George at 38%. Dame Lillard, 36. Chris Boucher, he of the bloodied lip, 33%, Victor Oladipo, 28, Kevin Porter Jr., 26, Daddy, 25. And then over on Yahoo, Chris Boucher, 46, Kevin Porter, who is $20 there, 43, Kyle Lowry, 35, Norman Powell, 30, John Collins, 28, he's $26 there, and Ricky Rubio, 27, he is $16. Thad Young, 23 over there, not quite as good of a price there at Yahoo. Anything shock you here?
Honestly, no. Everything sounds about appropriate going through it. I would say, for me, the Satoransky thing makes sense because of where he's priced. The Thad Young thing makes sense because of the projected minutes boost. As long as he gets up over 26 minutes, he's somebody who has, again, been outrageously consistent.
Right.
Yeah, nothing really shocks me.
Why did we pause, Jordan? There wasn't anything bad, was there? Oh, I don't know. All right, Jordan's. We made Tyler do funny voices on the show last night for the audience. We're not going to make you do that, Jordan.
What? I'm the funny voice guy.
He did accents, which is hilarious because he got his Texas drawl, but he can do like all of the Irish, Scottish, New Zealand, Australian, all that fun stuff. So
yeah, it's ironic to be an actor who can't do any of that. I have like my Midwest thing that comes out once in a while. Just having a dad who's from Minnesota and has just like that thick. Oh yeah, we're gonna go out to do the snowshoe thing. It's a little bit of that. It's like, oh, you want to go get on the lake? We could just shave it off and go play some sticks. It'd be great. Go play some hockey out on the ice. It's awful. It's awful. See, it's not a great one. For me, I have like Muppet voices. I have like, I don't know. It's like, Miss Piggy, like do some Kermit stuff. I don't know. Kermit. A little bit of that too. If you really want like some Stop licking me, frog. It's like, I don't know why I have this piggy.
Pause. We're veering dangerously close into a furry admission here. Don't do this.
A furry admission? No, the Muppets are hilarious. I just love it. The original, not the original, the Muppet movie with Jason Segel and Amy Adams is so good. I will defend that. It's a great movie. Am I a man or am I a Muppet?
Okay, with that, super chat from Jordan says, do I go lower on Boucher, Thad Young, or Collins on FanDuel?
Yeah, so we're going to get back to professional times here. I like Collins so much. Just Collins is the priority on everything.
Oh, you broke chat.
Something happened?
This is
something happen?
This is good.
Kermie D Frog here. Guys, we're gonna play basketball. Oh my lord. Eric sounds like Mahomes. I'll
Houston Rockets.
Mahomes is very good at football.
Starting lineup: Porter Jr., Victor Oladipo, Brown, that would be Sterling Brown, Jayshawn Tate, and Justin Patton.
Yeah, I hated seeing that Nwaba was in because that's going to be 18 to 20 minutes of like nothingness. You can't really play Nwaba.
So I didn't watch the game because I went to bed early, but I did text Chris Spags and I was like, oh my God, Nwaba's playing? I thought, because there was a poorly worded thing that came out of Houston where it sounded like he had a surgery. He has not had a surgery. He likely will need a surgery, but he was wearing some sort of soft wrap support, something or other. I just don't feel great about that. I don't know how much he plays now that they do have Victor Oladipo back. He did come off the bench. I vaguely remembering the box score of him playing like 15 or 20 minutes. He made a couple shots, but they were worried he wasn't going to be able to do anything with the basketball. That was kind of what the coaches were saying. That's not a good thing when you're out on a basketball court and you're a basketball player. So he is the one guy I'm really not that worried about. How much Kevin Porter do you want? He's coming up on the sites, but still too cheap for his new role. How do you feel about Kenyon Martin Jr.? What do we want to do here? And by the way, shaking all the touts that are like, ooh, like they've discovered Porter Jr. It's like, no. How many people picked him up on their season-long leagues or dynasty leagues, whatever? No. Nobody was discovered. This was a guy who was traded from a team because he threw a tantrum at his locker throwing food.
And then he proved that he's very good at basketball. I think he already was. He had already proved it before.
Yeah, but let's not just say, oh my God, it's like I'm the first person to discover. No, nobody. No. Rainier Beach is finest.
Yeah, I have near lock button levels, so I'm definitely going to be firing up the Kevin Porter Jr. again. I think the difficult conversation.
Yeah, I had 90% the other night, and I think that's what we want to talk about here on the how heavy are we going? It's a tougher matchup, but he's clearly the focal point on the offense. You're gonna have Victor Oladipo, a little more ball dominant guard, but that's also an NBA caliber player that the defense is at least going to have to acknowledge, which they didn't have the last game.
So I think the price tag is going to get people a little bit lighter on FanDuel, which I have a majority of my exposure on today. I try to focus more on one site when I'm doing a show, but I mean, I do have a couple over on Draftkings as well. Kevin Porter Jr., 26% right now at the small forward spot. I want to get on top of that. The tough thing for me, and I know Kenyon Martin Jr. is 3,500, which makes it very, very difficult. But like Nwaba is going to directly affect him a little bit. I'm going to take down. I had some irrational levels of him as well, kind of like comboing them up with each other quite a bit. I'm going to have to take that down a tiny bit. I think the Nwaba news does impact him just a little bit. The thing about Kevin Porter Jr. is you're seeing just a crazy assist rate from him too. 10 and 8 assists, the first two coming out. Like that for me makes him more consistent. Just the fact that he is ball handling, that he's playing point guard duties, like that is something that makes him so secure on this slate. And 5K on DraftKings, you just play a bunch of him. That's just a misprice. So I'm going to get well over the field there. Just make sure that you get leverage for me on top of it. You can make up a excuse to fade anybody, but my 5K at that number, like right now projected for 36. I mean, that's just a spot that I'm going to eat and get different elsewhere.
Yeah, and just for the record, I'm not claiming I knew anything about Kevin Porter Jr. I this is a nice outcome for the situation he was in. I am surprised at this, so I guess you could call me more of a doubter, but it's NBA DFS. Minutes, opportunity, all that good stuff is what we go to chase for. I just think that people were doing a little bit too much of an adjacent victory lap when there really wasn't one to be taken for anybody. That was what was kind of funny, in my opinion. All right. The Boston side of things, little Kemba Walker, perhaps. We've got Jason Tatum. I've got a lot of Jaylen Brown on playing DK tiers. He was my second highest owned guy on my crunch I just did there. I forgot to upload my file last night, so I ran a single lineup. Oops, that didn't go well. I'm going to go upload that file now. And then I got to make my cash game lineup because, hey, I now have real American dollars behind this. What do you like from the Boston side here?
Jaylen Brown is a guy I've never gotten right, so I'm not playing him again today. So enjoy all the money in the world. Obviously, he's going to stick out at 7,600 over on Fanduel. That's like a phenomenal number for him there. But I'm going to be punting a lot more there. 8,200 on DK, not necessarily as necessary. Draftkings, they're just poorly priced. Like, it's hard for me to get on top of any one of these guys. Like 7,400 Kemba, 8,200 Jaylen Brown, 9,500 Jason Tatum. They're just way too expensive on a slate where there's so much value that exists in that middle tier from Houston, from some of these other teams. I don't think you really have to get there. Where they're really intriguing is on FanDuel. I was getting to some Tice at 4,700. I don't have any problem going there. Jason Tatum, we know the kind of ceiling that he can have, but with all three of them active, it's tougher for him to get like way on top of 8,900. And obviously a majority of my exposure is going to get eaten up by one of the positions by John Collins now. Jaylen Brown, again, 7,600. I'm just kind of taking an underweight approach on him because all of those guys are back in and active. I know that he's been playing pretty predominantly well, minutes well, like played 40 minutes last time out, 34 the two times previously. Wouldn't have any issue getting to a little bit if you were there, but I'm just not going to get to where his ownership's at right now. But yeah, 22% right now. No thanks.
All right. Premium Slack asking a little bit about Super Draft. Let's throw out a couple there. Nikolai Vucevic at 1.15 multiplier and Enes Kanter at a 1.45 are your best centers. Kyle Lowry, we'll talk about Toronto in a moment. He came down a tick, but he's at 1.25. He's great. Michael Carter-Williams, I would put in the majority of my lineups there, a 1.8 multiplier. Colin Sexton, a 1.45. John Collins, a 1.4. Those are all the key guys that you want. Danilo Gallinari, 1.8. He's coming in as our best projected player because of that hefty multiplier. Remember, no salaries over there. It's the multiplier on top of their fantasy points. Anybody stand out there as being egregious that you didn't like?
No, again, that all sounded pretty appropriate. I mean, Michael Carter-Williams, 1.8, that's too large of a number to pass up there. He's the one guy that I do have pushback with a little bit today. Just a slower game. You would get Terrence Ross out there, but he's still going to project out well on like FanDuel where I'm playing. So 1.8 sounds like a great number on Super Draft.
Zion or Tatum?
I'm going to be rolling with Zion. You save $300 on FanDuel by going that direction. Over on DraftKings, what is the difference between them?
I want to say it's 9,200 Zion, I think is.
Yeah, so 95 Tatum, 86 for Zion. I'm still going to roll Zion there as well. Zion. Yeah, it's definitely Zion. And the ownership isn't like that big of a disparity, 5.6 compared to 10. Like Zion, 10%. I'm happy to get on top of that. Actually, I'm going to get on top right now.
All right, so let's see. Feels like we're missing something. Oh, that's right. It is the Toronto and Chicago game. So once again, Toronto only a bucket underdogs. I've said this the last three games when they were missing all their key players, and they've managed to lose those games. So Pascal Siakam is out, Fred VanVleet is out, OG Anunoby is out, Patrick McCaw is out, and Malachi Flynn is also out. Chicago will be without Garrett Temple. They are now starting Tomas Satoransky and Thaddeus Young. Kobe White and Wendell Carter Jr. will be coming off the bench. 230 over under, one of our twin late night hammers here. I'm feeling good again about Kyle Lowry. Chicago actually done an okay job guarding against guards from a fantasy perspective. I'm not that worried about it, though. Kyle Lowry is going to have to do a little bit of everything. We saw him 3 games ago get a career-high 19 assists against Boston, a much tougher matchup than Chicago. So what do you like, not like here? Is this a good Pascal Siakam spot? Do you go back to Boucher? What would you like to do?
Yeah, I'm an absolute mark for Boucher in general. That's
you just
the
like
guy
saying
that I
his
have.
Name. Okay.
It's a great name, and not only that, but if you ever watch him play basketball, it's so fun. He's just an offensive juggernaut. kind of does a little bit of everything, sits out on the perimeter, knocks down threes, has the green light, just chucks from every direction. Kind of a liability on the defensive end. But again, we don't really want to factor that in too much. Tries to block a lot of shots. I enjoy that about him. He's just an aggressive dude in a lot of ways. So I like getting on top of Boucher just about every single slate. He's a guy that I know Alex has been high on in the past too. Somebody that expresses just a wide range of outcomes. As long as those minutes get up, you could just see some huge, massive games from him in spots. And as long as these guys continue to be out, I'm going to be completely on top of the field just about every single slate. Some of these other ancillary options we haven't had to or that we've been forcing in the last couple of days, they're not as necessary. I still think Stanley Johnson, as bad as he's been, is a guy 3,500 on Fanduel if you're trying to get different. But now that those minutes went down to 14 last time, you don't have to do it. Norman Powell is going to be the other guy who sticks out, 7,400. I think a positive approach just because of Kyle Lowry playing a little bit better. And then Norman Powell coming off of a dud game. I could see myself getting a little bit on top of the field here. I'm actually going to bump him up a tiny bit. I like going to guys coming off of just terrible games. He's still somebody who's shot dependent, needs to score to do it, but he has an absolute path and a green light. I wouldn't want to get to like too many of these dudes, like in combination together. For some of these punts, they're just not nearly as necessary as what they were on previous slates, and they're still garnering quite a bit of ownership.
Right. We got 14 minutes left. Reminder, we are going to go an extra half hour to talk about No House Advantage. They are locking their big contest tonight. They're running a $10,000 GPP that will lock at 7:30. If you have or have not signed up there, you can sign up for free today. Everybody today that makes a deposit of up to $20 using the promo code Awesemo will get that matched by No House Advantage. That is not just new users today. We'll talk about them in great detail here shortly. I think we hit on all of the games here. Is there any news that we're holding out for that could surprise us? I don't think we have any. We don't have all the starting lineups yet, but I don't think there's any.
That's kind of the thing. It's just
other than it's Sunday in the spring in the NBA.
Again, because we were talking a little bit. I mean, I'm getting to more Gallo than I was expecting on FanDuel, which is weird. I don't know what just happened with that for me, but again, small forward is deeper and better than what it is on most slates. There are so many different options that you can go to. It's kind of an important position on this slate. I'm going to be eating a lot of John Collins. I see that ownership got way up there quick. He's up over 40. I do not care. I'm just going to have gobs and gobs of him. It's just a misprice at 5,900 for his new role. Trying to think of anything else that like really sticks out to me before we continue on. Yeah, we got Trae Young who's in. We already got all the Atlanta news. Tyler Hero, that's the one guy that we're waiting on. Yes. I think that's the one piece. I think Goran Dragic gets a huge bump with everybody there. So I want to kind of like sit on that exposure. I mean, what time is that? That game's got to be one of the first one. Yes, the first one off the bat.
First game.
So in the next 12 minutes, I'm gonna make another CSV here, one where he would technically be out, where I have Dragic in, and then one where he's in. And the only thing that's really going to be different is I'm going to get to a little bit more Butler and Dragic than what I otherwise would be.
Thad Young or Gallo in a DK tournament? I would lean towards Thaddeus Young personally.
Yeah, I really like his consistency. Like he just hasn't failed. I'd say this knowing full well that incoming. Just talk myself into that. He just gets off wonk because he starts as opposed to coming off the bench, and it just throws everything out the window that I'm saying. I definitely like Thad Young between the two, but I think it's just a product of the fact that Gallo does have a little bit of an upside. Gonna have to play some four. So again, that's probably part of it too. Gets a little bit more of a boost. There are more points and rebounds to go around for sure. And Gallo will have to play some four and some lineups here today and possibly some five. I mean, I guess you can't match up with like McGee in the second unit, but like definitely somebody who's going to be guarding Kevin Love in his 10 minutes of play.
Just looking here. Do you think Enes Kanter is a good cash play on DK at 6,900?
I'm not playing cash, but he definitely is one of the highest projected centers that we have. I would have no problem. I think he's probably going to garner. It's like him, Boucher, and I guess Cat as well. Those are going to be your three. That would be your. I mean, they have to be your cash game centers. Those are some combination of those three.
How do you feel about, let's see, Damian Lillard? That looks like a good cash
Love.
play.
Yeah, he's got the highest ceiling at the point guard spot. I like him exponentially more than I like Trey, who is going to be a little bit cheaper. I know Trey is, but we're talking Damian Lillard against Minnesota, and I want to get in these track meets as much as I can. It's supposed to be a game that's going to be a little bit closer. I like going right back to that.
All right. I'm going to have a lot. He's not in my cash game lineup, but for those of you who are playing me, good luck and Godspeed. Kevin Porter Jr., Paul George, Danilo Gallinari, John Collins, Enes Kanter, Tomas Satoransky, Thaddeus Young, and Kyle Lowry will be the guys I'm going into battle with tonight. I feel good about that.
Good deal.
Good about that.
Did you just give out your cash lineup?
Yeah. This is team free money. I'm transparent here, man.
Man, I would be jumping on that really, really hard. I'd rewind it, take notes of what it is, and find the 1v1 or 2v2. Jordan, go to work right now.
Jordan, I would target Enes Kanter as the pivot away from this if you have already picked up one of my games.
Yeah, if he doesn't fill all his head-to-heads, I'm going to do Muppet voices for the last 30 seconds of the show. And I know nobody wants that, myself included. So smash that like button and also fill Emacs head-to-heads.
All right. I think they get scooped pretty quick,
Just an absolute snipe. Thoughts on Gallo and Collins in the same lineup? I don't mind that, Andre. I don't mind it.
No, not at all. All right, let's see here.
Do I like Nance for FD Cash? I don't think you should be playing Nance, I think, for FD Cash, more than likely.
Darius Garland is starting with
You
Sexton.
should absolutely not be playing Nance for FanDuel Cash. I want to let that be known.
Garland, Sexton, Okoro, Love, and Allen.
Okay.
So that means Larry Nance off the bench. Tyler Hero,
which I was expecting. Did we get Tyler Hero news?
Just says he should play.
Oh, you should?
It'll
expected to play. Okay, then I don't have to do too many changes. That's fine. I have the other CSV that I had let me just crunch that, and then I can be done with my lineups because I made 2 of them. But here we go.
People saying, what are my head-to-head? I just rewind. Get the lineup. There you go. You want to know what it is? Good luck. Jordan's feverishly trying to
over under team free money. What a guy. That's so great.
It's all team free money. That's what it is. All right. I'm going to upload the ownership here. I got 8 minutes left. I'm going to make my lineups pretty quick. I've got a good idea of where I want to go. Do you ever set a minimum in Fantasy Cruncher, a minimum score, so it won't make lineups below a said number?
I've toyed with that quite a bit. The big issue for me is that when I do need to go in and late swap, I need to throw all of that stuff out the window immediately. And I tend to late swap. I tend to late swap more than the average human. And it seems like every time I do that, I get caught holding the bag and I just have some wonky stuff that pops up. Yeah. And I always kick myself later for doing it. So I generally do that in a lot of my first runs. And then I remove all those rules leading up to lock and kind of see if the lineups are coming out similar. Maybe that's just a little bit too much stuff to be doing. I didn't do it because we're on the show here today. I try to keep it a little bit more basic. So I'm just kind of keeping it manageable at the moment. Just 50 lineups on FanDuel, playing 20 on DK. Nothing too crazy. But generally when I'm playing 150, which is what I do almost every other night, I'm focused quite a bit on making sure that I do kind of reduce some of that total ownership in a certain way that's conducive to the lineups. But for me, I have 10% Juancho Hernangomez on DK. All of those, I wouldn't want that rule to impede me from getting to chalk because I am so different in that one spot.
All right. How do you feel? Oops, where did it go? Damn it. Paul Watson, shooting guard for Toronto.
I get it. He played the 27 minutes, but it was also just kind of a wonky game, and I don't want to read too into it. I'm not going to go there at 3,100 again because there are other places you can go near that minimum in other constructions. I'm doing that. I get if you need the 3,100 on DK. I was looking at doing that. I'm not going to do it today. Can't do it. It's a little too thin.
All right. How much Kawhi is too much Kawhi?
You could get to as much Kawhi because this is a spot where you're going to get him at a reduced ownership number compared to what he should be. He's 9K over on DK. I really, really like getting to him there because of how deep small forward is on FanDuel. which is a strange thing to be saying. But there's just options up and down the board. You got Jimmy Butler on the top end, Brandon Ingram, and then down to Kevin Porter and Kenyon Martin Jr., son of the dunker. Like, I absolutely love the small forward position in other spots. So I'm finding it more difficult to get to him there because I do have as much Jimmy Butler as I do.
Robert Williams in tournaments.
Or sorry, Paul George, excuse me, was what I meant. Who in tournaments?
Robert Williams, 5K on DK. He's going against Houston. He seems to be getting a little bit longer of a look here.
He's a guy that I was playing a bunch of earlier in the season when I needed punts and needed to go to places. The problem is that he played 17 minutes against Brooklyn. I thought that was maybe a spot. He still got to 33.8. Anytime he gets over 20 minutes, he's in play to smash a slate. The problem is he's now 5,600 as opposed to that 4K range that you were paying for him before over on FanDuel. His price over on DK is, I'm not going to pay 5K for him today on this slate. I get it. If you want to have a run back I'm never like actively trying to run players back unless they're both expensive that require a game to stay closer. But I'm just not going to get there today.
Would you lock in John Collins on FanDuel?
Yeah, I'm at 90%, so that's as close to lock as you can. I have no problem doing that because I'm doing it.
I'm hitting crunch shares. I may need you to chat for a moment if you got it. Thoughts on Bogdan? I just took him out of my player pool, or I put him at 3%, so I don't think I'm going to get him.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm going to do today either. He is just kind of a shot dependent dude. We haven't seen those minutes. They took the minutes limit away, but he's still playing like around 20 minutes. I'm not going to touch him on this slate. Again, small forward on FanDuel is stacked. Was that enough time? What do you need me to add? I'm here to just like randomly throw stuff.
Yeah, run with it.
Okay.
Run with it.
Let me take a look at the chat. DK Brown or Bacon? They are completely different ends of Sterling Brown, I'm assuming is who that is. I'd rather do Sterling Brown, somebody who can actually see a little bit more upside. Obviously, they're still limited on bodies. And Dwayne Bacon makes me sad inside. Tate, sure. I have no problem getting there. DK, GBP, Martin or Bacon. I'm going to go Martin Jr. there again. So somebody and Bacon, I'm probably going to go on the other side of it. Bacon was a lot more intriguing with Terrence Ross off the floor for me. Will Jimmy Butler be in the winning lineup? I wouldn't mind it. I'm going to be over the field on him on both sites. So that would be great. Powell or Ingram on FanDuel. I like both. 7,800 Powell is a big number. I like going to him as a lower owned play. Somebody who just got done burning everybody. So maybe take some shots on going to the other side of that. I'm almost never going to say no to playing Brandon Ingram ever because of what I think he is as a basketball player. Somebody who has an upside that's kind of been unexpressed of late, but definitely go in that direction. Over under Oladipo or Paul George. I like both. They are my two highest owned shooting guards. So both.
Did you get to any Jimmy Butler?
And I'm going over the field on Jimmy Butler, both sites. I mean, you don't have to do crazy things to get over top of him. Again, it's just sticker shock. And I understand he's not going to profile well. He's not going to pop in a projection. But like out of everybody, he's going to have the lowest ownership. He's at like 17%. I have like 22 right now. So I'm just a tiny, tiny bit over the field. But enough that I feel really, really good about it. So if he wants to break the slate, go right ahead. Kawhi's getting substantially more ownership over there, which I understand. But I think the ceiling that exists for Jimmy Butler is just so much higher. And we've seen that of late. He doesn't have a Paul George sitting across from him that can hurt that production.
All right, let's do a little download and upload here. And we'll be good to go.
I'm throwing this in myself. Everybody get your lineups in. We got 2 minutes. Hit that like button. We're going to have another half hour afterwards to talk some NHA, which is fantastic. I got absolutely slaughtered over there yesterday, which is hard to do because they have had a lot of overlay, and it's just been a great place to go make some dollars and build that bankroll of late. But yeah, once in a while you end up making some mistakes, and I made some mistakes yesterday.
Mistakes were made, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specifically on NHA. Had a good day on DK and was about average, just maybe a tiny bit up on FanDuel. Again, that's why you want to be playing multiple sites.
And slates and sports.
Those are both great ideas, Emac.
All right, I got my guys uploaded here. I've got that in. My next stuff doesn't go off till 8, so I'm good. So let's talk a little no house advantage. Again, promo code Awesemo gets everybody today a $20 deposit match if you put in $20. That's not just for new users. They are running a $10,000 GPP, and we have free projections for them. I am just making sure these are today's projections. There we go. I'm dropping those into Slack. So today the contest is 10 questions. You will be choosing from their current list of 95 questions. You will be choosing 10 of those, and you will be choosing to go over or under. And then you will be assigning that a confidence point. Does that seem a little confusing? Well, not the fair. Here's the link to get all of our optimal lineups in order for you. That, you may not want to pick that first one because other people may be picking it as well, but it gives you, or you can move around the order of the players to become.
I've been diving into the middle of the optimal lineups page, and that has been doing actually pretty well for me by digging into the middle, and then I'll move around a couple, but to go to page 5 or 6, not to give away my secrets of things, but it seems like there are a number of people who have been starting to just plug and play the first couple.
All right. So so there's thought number 1. So let's look at a few of these here. Now these dovetail nicely with, I can't play in Virginia, but I can sports bet now. So I've been doing a lot looking at player props and some different things. So this is the same thing. And I actually, the only reason I can't play in Virginia is you have to pay a $50,000 one-time fee to the state in order to become an operator. Or maybe it's $250,000. It's a big number for the smaller sites. So they haven't done those yet, but it's the same concept. So no problem talking about this. And this is sort of a format that we've seen on ESPN for years that I've played, not necessarily with player props, but with college football pick'ems and things like that. And they used to do in-game picks where you'd rank the likelihood of things happening, like turnover, fumble, defensive touchdown, stuff like that, right? So this is exactly that. So we've all been adjacent to this at various points. The only difference now is this is now in GPP format. So that's a lot of fun. So the key things that we're going to want to look at is what do we have as good options, poor options, etc. So what we have coming along here are the Alex Baker actual projections coming out of his model. And I think that's something that should not be overlooked, that this is everything that Awesemo is built off of is in these, and we're giving them away free for you. Now, you can use these also over on our betting lines at our sister site, Awesemo, our Odds Shopper at Awesemo is a good way to look at these. So I just wanted to see here what we have. Okay, so let's look at a few of our fun things.
Yeah, I'm going to build a lineup as we're going here too.
Excellent.
That I'm going to throw in. I figure that's a good way to do it. So if you
Trae Young assists seems to be a big one. 9.5. We have him projected for 7.9. The under odds are 84% chance of that happening. Is that one you're willing to go against? Little quad injury, no pick and rolls with or pick and dives with Capella. What do you think about that one? Is that on your short list?
I like it. I don't know if it would be my first one in the gate for the confidence slot. Again, there's one on the overside in Oladipo, points, rebounds, and assists, where the line is at 22.5. I think he's probably going to score more than 22.5 points alone. So that's just such a markedly better play, in my opinion, that I'm kind of smashing that side of it. And that's going to be my 10-point confidence slot in everything that I make all day. I find it next to impossible. We're looking at 92% of the time he gets over that. Yep. That's a hefty number. That's a minus 400 plus number that would be allocated to that. So Victor Oladipo over, that is by far my 10 confidence slot. And then looking on the other side, sure, I do like the under of 9.5. 9.5 is a big number with the number of available bodies, but part of it too is that somebody's going to be getting plugged in and played. There's going to be some shooters that come in between Bogdanovich, between Gallinari. There are still going to be some ways for him to succeed in that spot. I like taking the under on that because of not the pick and roll with Capella or, but Collins is still available out there. So it's going to be a lot of 2-man games there. And I could see him maybe getting close to that 9.5 number, but still something that I would be happy to take the under on in a lower confidence slot.
All right. Staying in that same game, this is one of our higher overs that we have. Jarrett Allen, 9.5 rebounds is the line. We're projecting him for 11.2. We want to keep into account that Kevin Love and Larry Nance Jr. are both back. However, no Capella. Those are going to sort of balance each other out. I think he had, up until his last game, I think he had 8 straight games where he was over or double-digit rebounds. How do you feel about Jarrett Allen with the shifting changes on both sides of the ball?
He's playing against John Collins at center. Yeah, I like Jarrett Allen quite a bit. I think we alluded to it earlier. I think the chat was going nuts about him as well. I asked Oladipo or George, same price on FT, and you said take both. Yeah, I like both. They're my 2 highest owned ones. If you make me take one over under, I'll take Oladipo because he's a smash. But man, I don't really know what to tell you. That's a good answer. I don't understand. Jacob worse than Eric L. Oh, that's not nice. Everybody's being mean. That's fine. I'll live with it. We're going back to NHA. I'm very, very excited about just about anything to do with Jarrett Allen today. When you look on the other side of it, Bruno Fernando is going to come in, and that's not going to be any kind of impeding to Jarrett Allen's production. Very, very excited about him.
All right. Let's look here. Oh, here's the interesting one. Zach LaVine, 35 over under combined points, rebounds, and assists. We are projecting him for 38. That's a 60% chance of that happening. How do you feel about that one? I actually like it. And that's where I start to get to the overs where I'm not as quite excited. And I start to think about going under because I subscribe to the school of thought of Ben Rasa.
What would that be?
The unders are there for a reason.
Oh, yeah. But this is also different in a lot of ways. So one of the great things about playing on NHA is those props don't change to account for news throughout the day. So situations can change. You take Kobe White off the floor, I'm going to like Zach LaVine's output a little bit more. Thomas Satoransky is not going to be somebody who's going to be competing for usage with Zach LaVine. Not that anybody is in that offense, but I like going to kind of the overs. If you look at everything down the line there, Zach LaVine over 2.5, that's a great prop. That's probably the best on the board for him. And then Zach LaVine points, rebounds, and assists, 35.5, good spot.
All right. Scrolling around here. Let's look at some of the unders here. Again, guys, this is at nohouseadvantage.com, $10,000 tournament tonight. If you make a deposit today, anybody makes a deposit today using the promo code Awesemo, they will match you up to $20. How's the overlay looking on there?
Right now we have, I'm on the lineup that I'm building here, so okay. I can't go back and look, but it wasn't even half full at the time.
Okay. 23 minutes left. So
no, it's over half full now. 368 of 550, but that's still not going to fill.
All right. Looking at some of our unders here. Oh, we got some Kobe White coming off the bench. 25.5 points, rebounds, and assists. We are projecting him for 21. Remember, that's not fantasy points because fantasy points you get depending on your site, 1.1, 1.2, 1.5 for the rebounds and assists. So just keep that in mind. You get bonuses for the triple or the 3-pointers.
Jaden McDaniels just got ruled out. So my Juancho Hernan Gomez take probably works out even better.
Jalen Noel.
But man, Jalen Noel is going to be a guy to go to. Let me pull up their rotation.
Should I go get my University of Washington?
Oh man, such a homer. Such a homer.
I didn't even know he played for them. It's too hard to watch the Huskies out here. They only play on the Pac-10 network. Shockingly, we don't get the Pac-10 network in Virginia.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels 21 minutes last night against Portland. So I mean that's a boost to that front court. I mean, Jalen Noel, not as he's more involved with Anthony Edwards, coming in for Anthony Edwards and for Ricky Rubio and such. But he could see a little bit of a minute spike. What it really does is it solidifies the fact that Juancho Hernan Gomez is going to play 20 plus minutes, I believe. And Jared Vanderbilt is probably going to play a couple more, but God, it's hard to trust him when he's played 11, 14 minutes the last two.
All right. Back to a little no house advantage here. I gotta register for some more contests here because I ain't getting enough today.
Oh, so you're getting ready for like your 48 slates that you play?
Yeah, we got turbo slates, we got late slates, we got all this stuff.
No slates
off. It's been a rough 2 days. I crushed it 2 days in a row, and then I got my teeth kicked in the last 2 days. So
I was just smashing golf today, and then John Rahm played like absolute garbaggio today. Probably played about as bad as he could have. Matthew Fitzpatrick made an eagle during the day. Every time somebody makes an eagle and shoots even, you can't really freak out too much, although positioning matters a lot. Like those eagles, and they just matter so much in the grand scheme of things. Saw that there was $1 million flipped with Bryson DeChambeau eagling 16 today. Gross. Let's look around here.
Why is this not working?
So if we're looking at no house advantage stuff here too, Trae Young, so we obviously like those under assists. Kobe White is another great spot. The one thing I'll say is that if people are kind of using some of the same data, don't be afraid to kind of mix up the positionality of like where they're at, because the difference between somebody being an 82% and like a 70% might not be reflected in like where they're placed at in the ownership. Like I expect just because Trae Young shows up at the top of the under chart that he's going to be a popular play on the under, which is why I'm going to move him down in a confidence slot a little bit. The Oladipo thing is just such a smash because 22.5 is like an accidental price. I'm pretty sure. I think that was just a misclick on their part for that, because that is going to be in over for sure. Don't want to talk in guarantees, but like if he plays anywhere close to 25 minutes, and we're right now projecting him for 36 plus, so no issue going there. Enes Kanter, somebody that is absolutely going to be on the floor up against Cat, same situation as last night. The over on those points and rebounds combined. So the 11.5 rebounds is a gigantic number. 12 points, you're kind of giving yourself a couple more outs by going to the points and rebounds route. But obviously rebounds are the one stat that really kind of popped from his end. I'm going to go to the points and rebounds one just to get a little bit different. And I'm going to move him down in confidence slot. Again, I'm not sure if this is all the most optimal ways to do it, but it's actually shown some success for me where, obviously if he ends up getting through, if he's one of the higher confidence slots for people, yeah, I'll be fighting a little bit of an uphill battle, but I'm finding advantageous props on this chart all the time as it is. So I'm not too worried about that. Norman Powell over of 20.5 points. Really, really like going back to the well there too. I don't think he'll be as owned as what he maybe should be in that spot, just like he wouldn't in DFS. So I'm going to fire him up in one of my higher confidence slots too.
All right. I am just looking here. Oh, we got news that I want to say. The Hawks starting lineup is going to be Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, Tony Snell, Danilo Gallinari, and John Collins.
Exactly what I expected. Don't have to do anything.
All right. People talking about the stimulus checks.
Good times.
I don't get those. You need to give those to other people. What else? We have...
Was that kind of a humble brag? That was a nice humble brag there. That was a good one.
Well, I am disappointed that there have not been more because we are in the US of A. I'm also disappointed that those giant packages, barely any of it is going to the people that really do need it directly. So I'm disappointed by that. I'm fortunate enough to not only have my day job, but also have this job still. So no, I think Stimmies definitely should go to people that need them. I am in the class where you don't need them, and that's totally fine. Speaking in the class of don't need them, Big T looks like he cleaned up over there on one of the 2 milli makers, and also another $100,000 contest. He took first, second, and ninth. Wow. Talk about being on a core of players. Nice work for him.
Yep.
Let's see here. Back to the fun. Let's look at some of our Kevin Porter ones. Is there anything we can take advantage there? Oh, no, because he is not on.
He's not available. So generally the guys who are going to be available are the top players. So another nice thing about No House Advantage is you don't necessarily have to worry about the punt plays. You don't have to think about that. You're generally playing studs. You're playing studs or the most prevalent plays on that slate for NHA. Just because if you were to get down into that value, I mean, they would be setting lines at like, what, 3.5 points over under
for Wendell Carter Jr. It is 10.5 points for his over under.
Well, That's a hairy one right there.
We're projecting for 9.27 points.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. I'll let somebody else enjoy playing that because there is a wide range of outcomes for what could happen for that guy. He could see none of the floor. You could see around his same amount of run with just a different starting unit. I think people try to factor in I just don't think we know exactly what Chicago is going to do here. Like it's hard to say, like, I know for sure Thomas Satoransky is going to play. He's going to start, but like, are we for sure that he's going to play more minutes as a result? Like I would expect that. That's the natural expectation, but I don't think you can just say definitively, yes, that's what's going to happen. Like Kobe White, again, the draft capital they have in that kid, and he has shown upside last year that Thomas Satoransky has never shown in his entire career. So I'm happy to be lighter on him today.
All right. 3-pointers made Jason Tatum 2.5.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That is an interesting one. That's a differentiation one, in my opinion.
So a lot of the times you'll get, so for NFL season, just made a wrecking by taking the over on interceptions early on in that, because the interception lines were basically minus 150 or better for a lot of those bets. So you basically had a positive EV bet just by betting interceptions going down the line. There were guys like Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers that you avoided those, but for most other quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, I basically made him a top confidence slot guy a majority of the time. People in pass heavy, well, I mean, they're not necessarily pass heavy offenses, but somebody who had interceptions above expectation just about every time he touches the field, you just jam those in. Similarly, I think the closest comp to that for NBA has been over on 3-pointers made. You're almost always going to find some positive numbers to be going to for that. What is his number for it today? So we've got him like sitting right around that middle ground. It's maybe a little bit on the over there, but like yesterday, Gordon Hayward was at 1.5. You have some of these lines that end up just being a little bit low. Zach LaVine sitting at 2.5. That's too low. That's somebody that I want to get the over on there. You look at Carmelo Anthony, 1.5, a guy who has been shooting the ball fantastically of late. I don't expect that to continue, but he's going to take 7 or 8 threes tonight, knocks down 2. That's an above expectation bet if he shoots 25%.
All right. Reminder, we're going for another 15 minutes here till No House Advantage locks their large contest. Use the promo code Awesemo. Anybody can do this today, and you get a $20 deposit match. We have the promo code Shamrock to celebrate our NBA second half. We've got a deal for you first-time users out there for Awesemo Plus. Get 50% off the weekly pass using the promo code Shamrock at checkout. That's $15 for the full access to all DFS sports, including NBA, PGA, NHL, NASCAR, MMA, soccer, and esports. This also includes our new premium basketball, college style, March Madness style projections. Those were beta tested for the last 2 months. They are great. They're now behind the paywall. We have offered March Madness projections in the past that have done very well. I am looking forward to using these in the upcoming contests. This is valid through the 17th. Hey, that's St. Patrick's Day. New users only. Stop guessing, start winning. Promo code Shamrock. And yes, I know Big T does not work here. That is okay. But we can still talk about other people that do well at other sites because we are not afraid to do that. Why? Because we have the #1 ranked gamer in our back pocket.
He has, he's pretty good, I would say. I feel pretty good where I'm at.
Excellent. All righty. Let's look at a couple more here. Oh, no, I closed the page, but let's get back to it.
It's all right. I got you for a second.
These are the free projections. I wanted to ask you about Zion, his points plus rebounds.
Let me pull it up here while we're at it.
That number is 34.5, which means he basically needs to go 24 and 10.
I wouldn't mind taking we're going to be shying a little bit on the under there. That's kind of just a stay away. Like, just like in sports betting, I try not to get too overexposed. Like, for me, golf is the best. I love building betting cards in golf because you can get exposure to different price tiers. Like, JT was my guy on the front end. I had a couple shots that I took, like Siwoo Kim was a guy that I liked coming into this week for the players. And then you can have somebody like Patrick Cantley who just craps the bet and it doesn't matter. So that was nice too. Is another guy that I was I added like a half unit on. But for NBA, I'm basically finding one or two props a night that I really want to bet, that I really want to target. Anything that's going to be this close in a projection, even on NHA, it's just kind of a stay away. You can find so many better lines, more advantageous lines. You go up and down the board just by the shade of greenness. You can just see that it's not going to be nearly as good of a bet as some of these other ones on the polls.
All right. We're talking a lot about bets here, so I would be remiss if I didn't drop the link into the chat to the Awesemo Odds Shopper. This is the player prop betting tool, which, by the way, similar to the No House Advantage, comes out, tells you the likelihood of these bets. This updates live as the lines change, but it also links you over to Odds Shopper, where you can shop the odds. You can find a lot of times you can find, especially with NFL, as many as 10-yard, 15-yard differences for quarterback passing. You can usually find 6 to 7 to 10-yard differences for rushing and or receiving targets. So you want to shop around, find out what's good or not. Player props oftentimes will carry heavy juice on one side or the other. And by looking at multiple sources there, 4 or 5 different sports books, you can find the best odds. You can improve your profitability potential, or ROI, by about 10% by choosing the correct place to put your wager. You can get access to all of that for free on that link that I just put on there. Awesemo Odd Shopper is the best place to find lines available on the games that you are betting on. It will give you the edge you need to beat the house. It's at oddshopper.awesemo.com. Sign up for free. You can track your bets. You can receive alerts when lines move. This is something we've been building out quite a bit, and more states are coming online here. You can see No House Advantage and other DFS games are starting to lean a little bit more towards the sports betting side. While I don't think DFS will ever go away, I think we're finding new and inventive ways to change the different gaming styles and shake things up a bit. So definitely check that out. All right, 9 minutes to go. Did you make your lineup? You want to build one out real quick?
I did. I got it all set to go.
Okay, you tell me what they are, and I'll tell you if I approve or not.
Okay, I can pull it back up. Da-da-da. I've got Oladipo, the over. It's just a misprice, so click. Jared Allen, over 23.5 points and rebounds is my number 9. 8 Levine, 2.5 3-pointers made over.
Oh, you did go there. Okay.
I did. Norman Powell, 20.5 over on points. Lonzo Ball, we didn't talk about him very much, and there's a reason for that because I didn't like him very much, but under 6.5 assists. Enes Kanter, over 23.5 points and rebounds together. Okay. Kind of giving myself 2 outs there as opposed to just the rebounds, which, 11.5 was too low. But if people bet the rebounds, he gets 11 rebounds, and then I have the points on top of it. I feel even better about it. So it's a little bit of a game theory strategy sitting there. Kyle Lowry, over on 30.5 points and assists, which is, you're getting a little hairier down to the bottom end. But I mean, I'm not expecting 19 assists by any means. But again, kind of combining the two to give myself a little bit more of a possibility to get over the top of that. Carmelo Anthony, over 1.5 3-pointers made. John Collins, over 27.5 points and rebounds. And I won't give you my very last one because then I don't give you an entire lineup.
Look at that. Playing by the rules.
Elindy
4?
Elindy 4, it's me.
What does the 4 represent?
The 4. It was my high school basketball number. I don't know. It was like my old, you remember AIM back in the day? I had like Elindy 4 and I was like in 5th grade. And I just had it as my stupid email, my stupid screen name. And so it was my stupid Draftkings and Fanduel name.
I actually never had AIM. I missed that. Mm-hmm. I didn't have internet at home.
You would have been 40 by that time.
That is true.
That is
true. No, they invented the internet while I was in college. We didn't have email.
Did you invent it?
No, I gave Al Gore the idea.
You and Al Gore? Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about that. Humble brag.
Humble Not guy, so humble brag. Mr. No Stimulus check. Here it comes.
I'm saying it. They needed to do more. Okay. They haven't done enough. Clearly. That's
all right.
Horrible.
Starting lineup exactly what I expected for the Timberwolves. Rubio, Edwards, Layman, Vanderbilt. I repeat, I have more interest in. I need to make sure that he's in my big lineup on DK. I don't want to. I've somehow planted my flag in Juancho Hernangomez today. I don't know how that's possible, but here we are.
Would you go FanDuel cash, Norman Powell and Hernangomez, or Kevin Porter and Tice?
I mean, Kevin Porter has to be a part of your cash lineup. He just does. That would be insane. So there can't be an either or where Kevin Porter isn't a part of the cash one that I'm utilizing. So I'm going Kevin Porter, but like play Kevin Porter in X. Like that's the answer.
We've got 6 minutes to go. Check it out. Get ready for the fun. It all starts tonight, technically. Slate Starter Podcast with Eric Lindquist and Ryan Rinpack. 6:30, you got The Process with Josh Engelman on the Awesemo YouTube channel. That does get turned into a podcast. We have the Awesemo Podcast Network available on all podcasting platforms. 10 o'clock, the NBA Strategy Show with Adam Kaufman and Greg Ehrenberg. 2 o'clock, the PGA First Look with Jason Roslin and Jeff Ulrich. 3 o'clock, the NHL Strategy Show with Jake Hari and Terry T. McBride. Also at 3 o'clock for premium members only. Use promo code Shamrock and you can be watching this tomorrow. You get 1 hour with Alex Baker on YouTube where you can ask him any questions you want, or on video where you can ask him any questions that you want and he will answer them. He does a screen share. He talks about how to use the different Awesemo tools. He talks about what he's doing for fantasy crunches, etc. Tatum or Hernan Gomez? Tatum. There needs to be a 2v2 if you're going to do that.
My brain just exploded a little bit. I'm not planning. And
apologies. I'm only looking at the pop-up. I better go.
Casey Paula has 12.8 on FanDuel. What? Okay, cool.
4 o'clock. The tip-off
Jimmy Butler
show.
and Kelly Olynyk are smashing. That's beautiful.
The tip-off show with Chris Baggs, Eric again, and then you get Kayla, of course. 5 o'clock deep dive. Laffy's back from paternity leave. Definitely tune in. We got to say congratulations on his daughter.
So cool. Yep.
And he'll be joined by Adam. And then 6 o'clock live before lock with Josh and Nerd Ask Greg yet again. And then a different format for the late swap and sweat show with Chris Baggs and your pal Emac. We're going at 9:30. There's a 2-game slate that will lock at 10. And then there is a 10:30 standalone game, which we believe will be the heavy showdown slate, and it's an excuse to make me stay up even later than normal.
Oh, boo.
I see what the schedulers. Mr.
So
West
sad.
Coast.
Yeah,
Although
dude.
technically, it'll feel like 9:30 instead. Of
I know. This seems like everybody. Like I don't know how people play DFS on the East Coast with the lock time. I think everybody kind of like loves their lock time. Is kind of what I've realized.
I
Like
wouldn't
East
be able to
Coasters,
do it on West
guys-
Coast because I would be at
Yeah.
work. I'd be
You guys,
stuck.
exactly. So that works out perfectly for you. I mean, now that this is something that we get to do on the daily, like this is phenomenal for me because I get to kind of have a somewhat normal work day. And then evenings, I guess, end up getting really busy right now too through NBA season. But I just love having like a 4 o'clock lock and then 7:30, and I can kind of like have some kind of a regular routine of things. But yeah, the 10 p.m. late slate there, you got to make sure you drink your coffee. Make sure you're ready to go, EMAC. Can't have you snoozing. Get you ready.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, we are 3 minutes away from the No House Advantage lock. Again, promo code Awesemo is good for today for anybody to make another deposit there. Whether it's your first or whether it's a redeposit, they will match you up to $20. They want you to go try it out over there. We're going to be doing some more shows and extended shows with them as well. Definitely check it out. That's where the overlay is. There's nothing that we can tell you on these shows that is going to be more valuable to you than actual overlay on contests. You still have to monetize it, but it's a little bit easier. How strong of a play is Kevin Porter Jr. on Yahoo at 20 today compared to Draftkings? The best way you can always see what's going on at Yahoo is to look at our ownership projections. And since you're a premium member, you can see that there. He was, I think, going off memory, didn't we say he was 46% owned or something like that there?
Yep.
I think his Yahoo value for what he's going to produce now would be the equivalent of 27 or so, give or take. You're probably getting about a 20% discount on him. That's my opinion. Even with Victor Oladipo back, I think Oladipo being back actually does help him.
Yep.
Let's see. Best value plays. Toronto on the late slate. Gallinari, is that game tips off in 2 minutes, right?
Yes, I'm making
Okay, so
sure I
that's
got
on the
everything
8
I
o'clock
needed
one.
to there.
The Minnesota guys, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Jalen Noel. I probably would put Ricky Rubio in that category still. Not a full
I'm
but
higher on Ricky Rubio than I have been for any other single game this entire season, but I'm assuming that's close to the same as everybody else too because of how he performed. But I don't know. I like seeing the minutes into the 30s. It's harder to get to on DraftKings at 5,700, but on Fanduel 4,800, sweet. Reggie Jackson confirmed starting. Whoop-de-doo. I'm not going to do it still with Paul George and
$12 on Yahoo.
There.
You can play him there.
You can play him at Yahoo for sure. For sure.
Is Ellenson viable tonight? He is a 10-day contract guy. I don't even know what team that's on.
He plays for Toronto. But I was looking at guys down there. He played
Patton
18
Paxton,
minutes.
Who's the guy? JP, their shooting guard. That's
I had
the guy.
4% on DK once upon a time, but I just turned all of that into Wancho because I think the minutes are a little bit more secure there. Yeah. Part of the result of 18 minutes of Ellenson was, that game did get out of hand for a second, and then it only finished as a 10-point game, but he got a little extended run there. He's 3K. You can make a case for a lot of 3K dudes, just about any spot. For me, I'm just kind of planting my flag in a dude that has no popularity whatsoever in Wancho.
Henry Ellenson, fifth-year fringe player. I remember him from Detroit. He's played 82 total games between Detroit, the Knicks, the Nets, and now Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah. He's 24.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's a lot of guys that you can make a case for taking shots on for sure.
All right. We are locked over there. One last reminder, new users only get 50% off using the promo code Shamrock of 1 week of Awesemo all access. For $15, you get the keys to the kingdom. You get everything. NBA, PGA, esports, NASCAR, NHL, and why, yes, March Madness. Definitely check that out. Final thoughts before we get on out of here, Eric?
Jimmy Butler's so good right now. It's a different dude. You just need to be playing him. Get over the field on him every slate right now. 10-4. I mean, obviously they could run Orlando out of the gym here, but God, I just love that guy.
All right.
Selena Gomez.
You can follow Eric on Twitter at Eric Lindquist. I am at EMACDFS. It is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, happy Pizza Pie Day.
Oh my God. I'm going to put you in a home